Chapter 1953. Junior Sister Yunluan is too polite. Back then, I still have to thank Junior Sister Yunluan for helping me out. Otherwise, I would not be who I am today. Junior Sister Yunluan, in about 3 days, I will go to the Flying Star Cliff to open the ancient formation that connects the Flying Star continent to the other world. If you are ready, you can go there in 3 days. Of course, if you do not want to leave now, you can leave later. Senior Brother Tangao, what do you think the outside world is like? Yunluan did not say whether she wanted to leave or not, but instead asked a question. Tangao was surprised for a moment, then immediately said, "Like I said before, there are opportunities, but also dangers. Alright, Junior Sister Yunluan, I have to go to the Murong clan now. I won't talk to you anymore." Even in the eyes of Tangao, Yunluan was a rare beauty. However, Tangao had many things to take care of at the moment. Therefore, after dealing with the matters of Yunluan Palace, Tangao immediately rushed to the Murong clan. After dealing with the matters of the Murong clan, he would go to the Lu clan manor to pick up Chu Shuahan and then leave the Flying Star continent. Since Shi Yun already knew that the ancient formation above the Flying Star Cliff was a passage to the outside world, then Tangao knew that the last 2 fallen star tokens were in Shi Yun's hands. Although Shi Yun was a chaotic heaven stage powerhouse, Tangao did not fear Shi Yun in the slightest on the Flying Star continent with his current cultivation. Once Tangao found Chu Shuahan, he would let Shi Yun take out the remaining 2 fallen star tokens and open the ancient formation to leave. Knowing that Tangao had matters to take care of, Yunluan did not urge Tangao to stay. Moreover, Yunluan was also preparing to leave the Flying Star continent. After experiencing so much, Yunluan understood that even if she hid in the Flying Star continent, she would still have to face the threat of her enemies. Since this was the case, instead of hiding for the rest of her life, it was better to go out and cultivate. In the future, she might be able to take revenge and even reunite with her family. The Murong family home happened to be in the middle of the Yunluan Palace and the Hidden Dragon Crypt. Even though it was Tangao's first time here, Tangao's speed was not slow at all. Once he identified a direction, he would rush forward. After leaving Yunluan Palace, Tangao arrived at the Murong family's Murong Manor in less than an hour. Murong Manor House was built on a mountain. Even though the Murong family has been declining day by day, Tangao could still tell from the buildings that he was at the height of his glory. Compared to the Yunluan Palace, the guards of the Murong Manor were practically non-existent. Not to mention Tangao, even a normal martial artist of the first level of the Origin realm would have an incomparably easy time entering and leaving the Murong Manor. Tangao soon arrived at Murong Manor. Then, Tangao saw 2 groups of people confronting each other inside Murong Manor. One of them was led by a man with 1 foot in the grave. This person looked extremely old and frail. However, Tangao knew that this person was at most middle-aged. The reason why he looked like this was because he had been poisoned too deeply. The other group was led by a beautiful middle-aged woman. According to what Murong Xian had said before, this person should be the Murong family's master, Murong Di's concubine, Madame Wang. And the man with 1 foot in the grave was naturally Murong Di. This was because Tangao saw that Murong Xian was currently standing nervously next to Murong Di. Next to Murong Xian were 2 other people. One of them was the person Tangao had asked for directions, Qingyi. The other person who looked similar to Murong Xian was Murong Xian. However, Tangao clearly did not recognize Murong Xian. On Murong Di's side, the person with the highest cultivation was Murong Xian, who was at the 9th level of the body refining realm. On Madame Wang's side, there were 3 martial artists of the Origin realm and no less than 10 martial artists of the 9th level of the body refining realm. Chapter 1954. Just as the 2 sides were at daggers drawn, the door to the small courtyard was suddenly pushed open. Then, Tangao walked in. After seeing Tang Ao, everyone was stunned. On the other hand, Morong Xian, who was standing behind Morong Di, was overjoyed. When they first parted, Morong Xian had thought that something had happened to Tang Ao. Now that she saw that Tang Ao was fine, Morong Xian was very happy. However, Morong Xian soon smiled bitterly. Previously, Morong Xian had told Tang Ao that if he ran into any trouble, he could come to the Morong family to look for her. Now that Tang Ao has come to the Morong family home, it's clear that he's here to ask for her help. However, what left Morong Xian helpless was the fact that she could barely protect herself at this moment. Clearly, she did not have the ability to help Tang Ao. Qing Yi, who was standing next to Morong Xian, was slightly surprised. She recognized Tang Ao as the person who had asked her for directions. Logically speaking, Tang Ao should be concocting pills in Yunluan Palace right now. Why would he come to Morong Manor? Who are you? This is not the place for you. Unlike other people, Madame Wang was able to force Morong Di, who once commanded the winds and clouds in the past, to this point. Obviously, she was not an easy person to get along with. The people behind Madame Wang did not notice the look in Morong Xian and Qing Yi's eyes, but Madame Wang did. After being in a stalemate for so long, it was time for both sides to lay their cards on the table. Madame Wang naturally did not want any accidents to happen. Seeing that Tang Ao and Morong Xian were close friends, Madame Wang admitted that she was hostile towards Tang Ao. Naturally, I'm Morong family's guest. Tang Ao walked straight over, as if he didn't see the tense atmosphere. Originally, there was a great disparity in strength between the two sides, and Madame Wang could have used force. However, as the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. After all, the Morong family was once one of the 8 great overlords. Even though Madame Wang wanted to take over the Morong family's business, she did not have the courage to take everything for herself. Therefore, Madame Wang also called Elder Ma of the multiple chain dock. However, Wang Chang was very puzzled. According to the agreed time, Elder Ma should have arrived by now. Could it be that something had happened? Or could it be that this old man Morong really had some tricks up his sleeves? The Morong clan does not entertain guests today. Please leave. This time, the person who spoke was a middle-aged man with a long beard standing next to Madame Wang. Tang Ao did not recognize the others, but Tang Ao had seen this man before. This man was none other than Lu Chuanfeng, the one who had caused trouble for Tang Ao on Morong Xian's pleasure boat. After the appearance of the Scarlet Wasteland, Lu Chuanfeng had obviously obtained his own opportunity. Tang Ao remembered that back then, Lu Chuanfeng was only a martial artist at the 4th level of the body refinement realm. Now, Lu Chuanfeng was already a martial artist at the 1st level of the origin realm. Perhaps because he rose to the 1st level of the origin realm, Lu Chuanfeng became extremely evil. As he spoke, he released his vital energy from his body, causing the cultivators with weaker cultivations on Morong Xian's side to feel suffocated. Ha, Lu Chuanfeng, don't you remember me? The current Tang Ao and Tang Ao did not change much in terms of appearance. It was just that the current Tang Ao's aura was completely different. Moreover, back then, Lu Chuanfeng thought that Tang Ao was only a small character and was not worth his attention. Therefore, Lu Chuanfeng naturally did not recognize Tang Ao. Chapter 1955. The atmosphere was already tense enough. Tang Ao's words made everyone on Morong Xian's side even more nervous. Actually, if Morong Di really had something to rely on, he wouldn't have been forced into a corner by Madame Wang to not use it. Morong Di was already at the end of his rope. He was only sitting here today to fight for a way out for Morong Xian and the others. Lu Chuanfeng was originally afraid of Tang Ao. After hearing Tang Ao's words, Lu Chuanfeng suddenly laughed unscrupulously. Lu Chuanfeng originally thought that Tang Ao had something to rely on. Now, it seemed like Tang Ao was completely relying on the fact that he knew someone from the Murong family and thought that Murong Di was still the master of the Murong family. After a burst of laughter, Lu Chuanfeng said to Tang Ao, "There is indeed a master here, but the master here can't make a decision today. Do you believe me?" As Lu Chuanfeng spoke, his aura had already swept towards Tang Ao. From Lu Chuanfeng's point of view, Tang Ao was a martial artist with no energy undulations. He was either an ordinary person or had an extremely low cultivation. But no matter what, since Tang Ao had offended him, he couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. Madame Wang nodded. They still didn't know Tang Ao's cultivation. Since that was the case, it was better to let Lu Chuanfeng test Tang Ao. "I don't believe you." Tang Ao didn't care about Lu Chuanfeng's threat. Very soon, Tang Ao arrived in front of Murong Xian. He then clasped his fists at Murong Xian and said, "Miss Murong, thank you for saving my life in the river of forgetfulness. I was passing by the Murong family today, so I came in to ask for some water." While Tang Ao and Murong Xian were talking, Murong Xian and Qingyi were also conversing with soul remembrance. Murong Xian couldn't believe that Tang Ao was an expert who could casually take out a supreme-grade vitality nurturing pill. Although Murong Xian couldn't see through Tang Ao's cultivation, she absolutely didn't believe that Tang Ao was an ordinary person. The journey from the Cloud Luan Palace to the Murong family home wasn't a short one, so Murong Xian and Qing took the last beast carriage. The next beast carriage wouldn't arrive until half a month later, so Tang Ao definitely didn't come here on a beast carriage. If one didn't have a beast carriage and only used other methods to arrive here in 3 days, then they would truly be considered experts. Right now, Murong Xian was imagining that after Tang Ao failed to refine pills at the Cloud Luan Palace, he would immediately rush to the Murong family home, which would take him 3 days. But what Murong Xian didn't know was that Tang Ao had spent 3 days at the Cloud Luan Palace. From the Cloud Luan Palace to this place, Tang Ao had only used the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. "You can't drink this glass of water today." After being provoked by Tang Ao, Lu Chuanfeng naturally wouldn't tolerate it and directly attacked Tang Ao. Unlike before, Lu Chuanfeng was now using a steel mace. This steel whip was only half broken. With a glance, Tang Ao could tell that this was a broken first-grade immortal item. After Tang Ao plundered Great Dream Dao Sovereign's treasury, first-grade immortal items were no longer attractive to Tang Ao. However, this steel whip was an exception. Because Tang Ao saw that the material used to refine this mace was actually black gold iron, Tang Ao's heart was moved. Black gold iron was a 6th-grade immortal material. Normally speaking, even the scraps of black gold iron wouldn't be used to forge a mere first-grade immortal item. Chapter 1956. Tang Ao, get away! Murong Xian shouted anxiously when Tang Ao was interested in Lu Chuanfeng's whip. Her fourth uncle was in the 9th level of the Origin Martial Realm, but not long ago, he was killed by Lu Chuanfeng's whip. Murong Xian felt that after such a long time, even if Tang Ao's cultivation had improved, he would not be able to fight against Lu Chuanfeng. To everyone's surprise, when Lu Chuanfeng lashed out with his whip towards Tang Ao directly raised his hand to grab the long whip in Lu Chuanfeng's hand. Seeing Tang Ao using his hand to grab his steel whip, Lu Chuanfeng's eyes revealed a cruel smile. This Tang Ao really overestimated himself. He actually dared to use his hand to grab the whip. After all, not too long ago, he had used this very whip to whip Murong Kong of the Murong family to death. It was as if Lu Chuanfeng could already see the scene of Tang Ao's right hand being whipped until it was drenched in blood. Murong Xian closed her eyes, not wanting to see what was going to happen next. However, the scene in her imagination did not happen. When Lu Chuanfeng's whip was about to hit Tang Ao easily grabbed Lu Chuanfeng's whip. However, when Tang Ao grabbed Lu Chuanfeng's whip, Not only did Tang Ao's hand not suffer any injuries, Tang Ao's Yuan Qi shook and Lu Chuanfeng lost his grip on the whip. Tang Ao easily grabbed the whip. Then, without waiting for Lu Chuanfeng to react, Tang Ao lashed out with the whip. The whip was like a poisonous snake in Lu Chuanfeng's hand, but in Tang Ao's hand, it was like a bolt of lightning. Smack! Tang Ao's whip arrived in front of Lu Chuanfeng as fast as lightning. Lu Chuanfeng did not expect that he would be whipped to death today after whipping someone to death yesterday. Under Tang Ao's whip, all the Yuan Qi poured out along the long whip. How could Lu Chuanfeng, who was merely at the first level of the origin realm, defend against Tang Ao's surging energy? After being hit by Tang Ao's whip, Lu Chuanfeng's internal organs were instantly shattered, and his whole body went limp. Lu Chuanfeng continued to spit out blood after he hit the ground. It was obvious that he had suffered severe internal injuries. When Madame Wang saw this scene, she was not surprised. Instead, she thought to herself, as expected. Madame Wang felt that Murongdi, this old fellow, must have some sort of backup plan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have persisted until today to discuss the conditions with her. Previously, Madame Wang was unable to make up her mind, but now that she saw that Murongdi was only relying on such a young man, Madame Wang no longer had any misgivings. How dare you commit murder in the Murong family home? Men, take this person down. After Madame Wang coldly yelled, 4 first-level origin realm martial artists immediately walked out from behind her. Although these 4 people and Lu Chuanfeng, who was whipped to death by Tang Ao, were all at the first level of the origin realm, the 4 of them were not the least bit afraid of Tang Ao. Although they and Lu Chuanfeng worked under Madame Wang, these people completely looked down on Lu Chuanfeng. Lu Chuanfeng's cultivation to the first level of the origin realm basically relied on the accumulation of pills and yuan crystals. Lu Chuanfeng's own strength was slightly inferior to some powerful 9th-level body refinement realm martial artists. Another point was that Lu Chuanfeng was the direct disciple of the multiple chain docks elder, Ma Yu. The multiple chain docks Ma Yu was a 6th-level origin realm expert, but Ma Yu had a habit. He only accepted one disciple. Lu Chuanfeng died, so these 4 people naturally had the opportunity to become Ma Yu's disciple. They could also use the multiple chain dock as a big thigh. Chapter 1957. Who Dares to Act Rashly? Before the 4 people started to act, a weathered voice came from afar. Not long after, an old man in a gray robe appeared in the small courtyard. As soon as Ma Yu arrived, he saw his disciple Lu Chuanfeng lying on the ground with blood foaming from his mouth. An inexplicable anger suddenly burned in his heart. The multiple chain dock was about to make a meteoric rise. Facing the threat of the Lu family, the 7 overlords and some top forces chose to unite to fight against the Lu family. But no one knew that the envoy of the Lu family had already communicated with the multiple chain dock 5 days ago, and asked the multiple chain dock to act as an insider in the alliance. After that, the Lu family could divide the Flying Star continent, except for the central area, under the jurisdiction of the multiple chain dock. At that time, the other top forces would have been destroyed by the Lu family. Therefore, the division of the territory would be the division of resources, because at that time there would be no force that could compete with the multiple chain dock in its territory. However, Ma Yu never expected that his disciple would be killed at this critical juncture. The reason why Ma Yu was so angry was not because he was protective. It was because the skill he practiced was called soul-stealing skill, which needed to devour the souls of warriors to improve his skill. On the surface, Ma Yu was only at the 6th level of the origin martial realm, but in fact, he was at the peak of the 7th level of the origin martial realm. Once the Lu family wiped out the other big forces, it would be easier for Ma Yu to practice soul-stealing skill. In time, his cultivation would definitely surpass Lu Chuanjia and others. Soul-stealing skill was Ma Yu's biggest gain in the Scarlet Wasteland, and it was also Ma Yu's biggest reliance. Elder Ma, this is the man who killed your beloved disciple. Madame Wang raised her hand and pointed at Tang Ao, and said to Ma Yu. Ma Yu looked in the direction Madame Wang pointed and saw Tang Ao. After seeing Tang Ao, Ma Yu's face immediately lit up. The reason why Ma Yu took Lu Chuanfeng as his disciple was that his body couldn't hold on for long. According to Ma Yu's observation, Lu Chuanfeng's body could barely hold on. Therefore, Ma Yu could only choose Lu Chuanfeng when there was no better choice. But now, after sensing Tang Ao's aura, Ma Yu knew that Tang Ao, whose yuan qi was not evident, was the best choice for him to possess. After cultivating the soul-snatching technique, Ma Yu's perception of the soul became very clear. Ma Yu could sense that Tang Ao's soul was extremely powerful and pure, almost reaching the level of the legendary stainless soul. It had to be said that although Ma Yu was only a warrior from the Feishing continent, his judgment was very accurate this time. With the 9 Dragons Emperor's jade body, Tang Ao's soul was no weaker than the legendary stainless soul. However, how could a heaven-defying constitution like the 9 Dragons Emperor's jade body be something that Ma Yu could endure? Ma Yu realized that Tang Ao's body was very suitable for him to cultivate the soul-snatching technique. Without any hesitation, he took a step forward and pressed down on Tang Ao. At the same time, yuan qi erupted from Ma Yu's body. Many of the weaker cultivators on Murong Xian's side immediately felt a tightness in their chests. Then, they spat out a mouthful of blood. Just the yuan qi of a warrior at the peak of the 7th level of the origin martial realm was not something they could endure. But soon, the crowd saw Tang Ao slowly raise his hand and casually slap forward. Chapter 1958. Ma Yu also revealed a hint of sneer in his eyes. Not to mention that he was fighting head-on against that boy. Even if he had a sneak attack, he would not be able to hit him. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if he, Ma Yu, took that level of attack head-on, it would not be much of a problem. But clearly, Ma Yu did not plan on taking Tang Ao's attack head-on. For a powerful person like him, if he was slapped by an ant, it would be a very shameful thing. But what made Ma Yu's heart incomparably terrified was when he prepared to dodge Tang Ao's palm and at the same time, he attacked Tang Ao. Ma Yu discovered that his body was not listening to him. At that instant, his consciousness was incomparably clear, but his body could not move at all. What was happening? Ever since Ma Yu started cultivating, he had experienced countless life and death battles, but he had never seen such a situation. Pow. Along with a crisp sound, the scene of Tang Ao being slapped to death by Ma Yu did not occur. Instead, Ma Yu was sent flying back, his eyes filled with disbelief. Seeing that scene, the martial artists on Madame Wang's side naturally did not dare to believe it. To know that Ma Yu was a true expert of the 6th level of the origin realm. Was it possible that the unreasonably young Tang Ao in front of them was also a martial artist of the 6th level of the origin realm? Even if Tang Ao was a martial artist of the 6th level of the origin realm, he shouldn't have been able to beat Ma Yu to the point where he could not even fight back. Murong Xian and Qingyi understood Tang Ao a bit more than everyone else. Before, the two of them already determined that Tang Ao was an extremely strong expert in the Tao of Pills. Looking at it now, not only was Tang Ao strong in the Tao of Pills, even his martial Tao was outstanding. Little bastard, you dare to sneak attack me? Die. After being slapped by Tang Ao, Ma Yu did not have the slightest awareness that Tang Ao was stronger than him. Rather, he thought that Tang Ao must have used some sort of method to succeed in his sneak attack. This time, Ma Yu did not plan to give Tang Ao any chance to attack. After a roar, Ma Yu raised his hand and threw out 3 jet-black fine needles. Spirit needles? Tang Ao secretly sighed in his heart. He didn't think there would be a martial artist in the Flying Star continent who knew such methods. If he wasn't the one fighting Ma Yu right now, even Lu Chuanjia and Lu Xingjin, who were at the 8th level of the Origin Realm, would most likely be hit by Ma Yu's spirit needles. One had to know that this soul-fixing needle couldn't be touched physically, or else one's soul would be immediately immobilized. However, the spirit needles Tang Ao had seen in his previous life were more than 1,000 times more powerful than the ones Ma Yu used. Therefore, Ma Yu's 3 spirit needles were nothing in front of Tang Ao. With a thought, the netherworld flame instantly appeared in front of Tang Ao, and Ma Yu's 3 spirit calming needles instantly shot into the netherworld flame. After the spirit needles were wrapped by the netherworld flames, the might of the 9th grade spiritual fire was immediately unleashed. In the blink of an eye, Ma Yu's spirit calming needle was burnt to ashes. On the other hand, Ma Yu also spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, a chilling aura emitted from his body, and he immediately tried to escape. At this moment, if Ma Yu still didn't know that the person in front of him, Tang Ao, was stronger than him, then Ma Yu would have lived in vain. Although it was hard to believe, it was the truth. Chapter 1959. After escaping from the Murong Manor, Ma Yu secretly rejoiced. As a cultivator of the soul-snatching skill, his cultivation speed was extremely fast. If he were to die here today, he would have suffered a great loss. As long as he did not die today, he would come back to deal with Tang Ao sooner or later. When he saw that Tang Ao did not chase after him, Ma Yu did not dare to stay any longer and continued to fly away. However, at this moment, Ma Yu suddenly saw a golden feathered arrow flying towards him from behind. In an instant, this golden feathered arrow had completely locked onto his chi. Ma Yu realized that no matter how hard he tried to dodge, he could not avoid this golden feathered arrow. However, Ma Yu was very anxious and immediately took out a shield. Kacha! Under Tang Ao's profound heaven arrow, Ma Yu's shield immediately shattered. No! After letting out one last scream, the black heaven arrow instantly shot towards Ma Yu. Then, a loud boom was heard and the air was filled with vitality. By the time the surrounding vitality had calmed down, Ma Yu was nowhere to be seen. The fact that Tang Ao had killed Ma Yu with a single arrow was undoubtedly a huge shock to everyone. The 4 people who had wanted to attack Tang Ao immediately knelt down in fear. "Senior, please spare our lives." These 4 people were not cultivators of the Wang family. They had only been recruited by Madame Wang after they had obtained some benefits from the Scarlet Wastelands. However, the 4 of them did not expect that the Murong family, which was already on the decline, would have such powerful reinforcements. If they had known that the Murong family was protected by such a powerful cultivator, they would not have dared to cause trouble at the Murong family even if they had eaten the heart of a bear or the guts of a leopard. Murong Xian, on the other hand, was overjoyed. She never thought that Tang Ao would have cultivated to such a level. Tang Ao was not here to ask for her help. He was clearly here to help the Murong family out of their predicament. Murong Xian immediately felt a lump in her throat and was about to bow and thank him. However, a gentle wave of vitality pulled Murong Xian up. Tang Ao then said, "Junior sister Murong, when I was in trouble, you saved Tang Ao's life. So today I have helped the Murong family overcome this crisis. What do you plan to do with the rest of you?" Madame Wang and the people behind Madame Wang could be said to be indebted to the Murong family. However, not only did these people not think about repaying the debt of gratitude, they even wanted to bite back at the Murong family when they were in a difficult situation. Tang Ao hated this kind of ingrate the most. According to Tang Ao's plan, he would not let any of these people go. Murong Xian felt a little awkward when she heard Tang Ao's words. Murong Xian stared at Murong Di helplessly but strangely. This time, Murong Di pretended not to see anything. Of course, it was not that Murong Di did not notice the pleading look in Murong Xian's eyes. It was because Murong Di knew that his time had come. From now on, Murong Xian would be the one truly in charge of the Murong family. This would be the first important decision Murong Xian would make in taking over the Murong family. Murong Xian naturally understood what her father meant. Murong Xian hated these people to the bone. If it had not been for these people, the Murong family would not have encountered so many problems. After a long silence, Murong Xian said, "Cultivators whose hands have not been tainted by the blood of the Murong family disciples, please step back." Chapter 1960. There were nearly 100 people behind Madame Wang. With this retreat, 30 people were forced to the back. After they had retreated, Murong Xian said weakly, "Kill the rest. Lady, please spare us. We were forced to do this." "Humph, I am not one to be slaughtered. You and I." Before the man could finish his sentence, Tang Ao waved his hand and dozens of balls of fire flew towards the cultivators. Some cultivators wanted to escape, but under the pressure of Tang Ao's Yuan Qi, they could not move at all. In an instant, the cultivators of the Murong family, whose lives were in danger, burst into cheers. As for the crowd who had been strutting around with Madame Wang, they had now been burned into nothingness by Tang Ao's flames. The young disciples of the Murong family looked at Tang Ao with longing. One day, if they could be like Tang Ao, how exciting would that be? Tang Ao admired Murong Xian's choice. With this, he did not kill the innocent and also calmed the Murong family's riot. Tang Ao then took out a storage ring. Inside the storage ring were 100,000 yuan crystals and a few cultivation resources. Tang Ao had no use for these yuan crystals. Then, Tang Ao willed Tang Ao to release the 2 flaming lions. After releasing the 2 flaming lions, Tang Ao crushed a talisman. Instantly, the soul mark that Tang Ao had planted in the flaming lion's souls was removed by Tang Ao. However, after Tang Ao removed the soul mark, the 2 flaming lions did not dare to do anything. Both of them could clearly feel that even though their master had removed their soul imprints, their master's aura had already reached a terrifying level. It was as though he could kill them with a wave of his hand. "These 2 blaze lions are for you as a gift. There are spirit beast pills in the storage ring, and with origin crystals, these 2 fellows should be able to quickly raise their cultivation to the 6th level of the origin realm or even higher. Now I'll help you control them with your soul brand." Although these 2 blazing lions looked pretty good, Tang Ao was about to leave this place. If they followed Tang Ao, there was no room for them to improve. The dangers that Tang Ao was about to face were far more dangerous than those on the Flying Star continent. Due to the limitation of their bloodline, the fiery lions could not evolve into high-level demon beasts. Therefore, it was best to keep them on the Flying Star continent. "Senior brother Tang Ao, can I talk to them?" Murong Xian asked with a smile after thinking for a moment. Even though Murong Xian would be able to gain absolute control over these 2 fiery lions by branding them with her soul, she knew that it would be very unfair to these 2 little fellows. Right now, she only had the cultivation of the 9th level of the origin realm. She could very easily be killed. If she branded them with a soul brand and died, the 2 blazing lions would also die from the backlash of the soul brand. Murong Xian walked in front of the 2 blazing lions and said, "Little fellows, I really need your help right now. However, I will not use the soul brand to control you. Are you willing to form a spiritual beast contract with me to help me?" Chapter 1961. Without any hesitation, Murong Xian put her hands on the lions. These 2 lions had eaten quite a lot of spirit beast pellets and yuan crystals in Tang Ao's Primal Chaos 6 light mirror. Right now, they were already at the peak of the 4th level of the origin martial realm. Adding on the fact that they were demonic beasts, their attacking power was not weaker than normal 5th level origin martial realm warriors. "Sister Murong, this 100 herb pellet can cure the poison in the leader of the Murong family." As he spoke, Tang Ao handed over a bottle of pellets to Murong Xian, then said, "In the future, when you reach the 9th level of the Origin Martial Realm or the Sea of Souls Realm, if you want to leave this place, you can go to the Flying Star Cliff. Through the Flying Star Cliff's formation, you can go to other worlds. We will meet again." After leaving the Murong Manor, Tang Ao flew towards the Flying Star Cliff. Tang Ao knew that Shi Tianyun must be waiting for him at the Flying Star Cliff. However, right now, Tang Ao was not afraid of Shi Tianyun at all. In this place, besides his long lifespan and rich training experience, Shi Tianyun was no different from a normal human being. Some distance away from the Flying Star Cliff, Tang Ao stopped on top of a barren mountain. With a thought, Tang Ao let out Xiao Yun and Yi Su from the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror. During this period of time, the two had been training in seclusion. Xiao Yun's cultivation had reached the 4th level of the Origin Martial Realm, while Yi Su's cultivation had reached the 6th level. "Greetings, teacher." The two knew that since Tang Ao had called them out, there must be something he wanted them to do. Tang Ao raised his hand, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. "Next, I will leave this place and go to other worlds to train. Do you two want to stay in the Flying Star Continent to train for a while, or do you want to leave with me?" Compared to other worlds, although the Flying Star Continent was not suitable for training, it was very kind. The cultivation of the demonic beasts and the warriors in the Flying Star Continent were not that different. Therefore, the training environment was relatively safe. In the Black-Yellow Continent where Tang Ao was, the strongest martial artist had reached the peak of the 9th level of Astral Reaching Realm, while the weakest martial artist was only at the Body Refining Realm. Therefore, if one's cultivation base was too low in the Xianwang Continent, one would be like an ant. At present, Tang Ao did not know much about the ancient teleportation array of the Flying Star Cliff. However, Tang Ao wanted to know what the two of them wanted before deciding whether or not to bring them along with him. Disciple will naturally follow master. This time, even without Yi Su's reminder, Xiao Yun knew that he had to leave with Tang Ao. That was the only way he could go to a wider world. After Xiao Yun finished speaking, Yi Su nodded her head. Clearly, she had the same thoughts as Xiao Yun. "All right, since that's the case, let's go." As Tang Ao spoke, he sent Xiao Yun and Yi Su into the chaotic hexagram mirror's space once again. Then, he rushed towards the Flying Star Cliff. Today, the Flying Star Cliff was unusually lively. Many warriors of the Flying Star Continent who had heard the news had come over. This was because today, Tang Ao and Lu Chuanjia were going to open the ancient teleportation array at the summit of the Flying Star Cliff. Rumor had it that this ancient teleportation array was the spatial passage that connected the Flying Star Cliff to the outside world. Through this ancient teleportation array, warriors of the Flying Star Continent would be able to leave the Flying Star Continent and go to a wider world once they reached a certain level of cultivation. Chapter 1962. Originally, according to Tang Ao's arrangement, Luo Yunshang, Little Iron Pillar, and the others were returning to the 100 Flowers Manor. However, on the way back to the 100 Flowers Manor, Yunshi saw that Luo Yunshang had a good foundation. Therefore, she accepted Luo Yunshang as her disciple. At her peak, Yunshi was an expert of the Yin-Yang realm. She was even more formidable than Tang Ao. Therefore, it was a good choice for Luo Yunshang to become Yunshi's disciple. "Aunt, are we going to leave this place soon?" Yun Luan didn't have too many sentiments towards the Flying Star Continent. Just like Yun Luan, Luo Yunshang also didn't have any worries. Perhaps it was a kind of relief for Luo Yunshang to leave this sad place. "Well, I have seen this formation before. It connects to 9 planes. We are going to the desolate martial world, which is the closest place to the true martial world. After I restore my cultivation in the desolate martial world, we will go to other worlds." At the top of the Flying Star Cliff was a huge flat land. This flat land seemed to have been formed by someone using a divine sword to cut off a mountain peak. Shi Yun was slowly walking on this huge and ancient formation. He was different from Shui Vulture on the side. Shi Yun's formation Dao was very formidable. If it wasn't for this, Shi Yun wouldn't have been able to calculate that this formation would open once every 1,800 years. If he missed this opportunity, he would have to wait for 1,800 years before he could open this formation. For Shi Yun, who had a long lifespan, 1,800 years was nothing. However, Shi Yun didn't want to wait any longer. He had waited long enough. Shui Vulture was still sitting cross-legged on the side. Compared to Shi Yun, Shui Vulture wasn't in a hurry to leave the Flying Star continent. He cultivated a blood system power technique. Therefore, he wasn't suppressed by the laws of the Flying Star continent. However, his cultivation speed was a bit slower. However, Shui Vulture wasn't willing to stay if he could leave this place. Although it was rumored that Divine King Yunxing had fallen, Shui Vulture's heart still palpitated in this place. This feeling made Shui Vulture very uncomfortable. It was as if he was being watched all the time. In the Flying Star continent, only Divine King Yunxing could do this. However, he had seen the image of Divine King Yunxing's death with his own eyes. Therefore, he couldn't explain why he felt this way. In a gorgeous building in the Lu clan's manor, it was very deserted today. Even though there were stunning beauties here, it was clear that the ancient formation at the top of the Flying Star Cliff was more attractive today. Chu Xuehan looked at the distant mountain peak from a small window. Suddenly, Chu Xuehan's gaze flickered. She actually saw a flash of a golden shadow. Chu Xuehan blinked her beautiful eyes in excitement. She had seen this kind of golden light many times, but it was always from one person. That person was called Tang Ao. However, Chu Xuehan did not know if Tang Ao was still alive. Chu Xuehan only knew that many things had happened on this continent, but she didn't have the ability to know what had happened. Xuehan, I'm here, Tang Ao said gently as he stood behind Chu Xuehan. Chu Xuehan struggled for a moment when she heard Tang Ao's voice before she turned around. Then, Chu Xuehan threw herself into Tang Ao's arms and 2 streams of tears flowed down. Chu Xuehan had been living in fear ever since she came to this unfamiliar place without any cultivation. Chu Xuehan felt aggrieved when she saw Tang Ao. It's okay. I'll take you out of here now, Tang Ao said gently as he patted Chu Xuehan's back. I knew you would come to pick me up. However, the teleportation talisman can't be used here anymore. Can we leave this place? Chu Xuehan was a little worried. She felt more at ease after seeing Tang Ao. However, Chu Xuehan wouldn't be able to bear being trapped in this place forever. After all, her family was in the Winter Plains. Chu Xuehan really missed them. Chapter 1963. Chu Xuehan knew that Tang Ao had the primal chaos hexlight mirror. And now, as Tang Ao's cultivation recovered, the primal chaos hexlight mirror was divided into independent spaces under Tang Ao's control. Yi Su and Xiao Yun were in one space, while the snow-winged spirit cat and Xiao Yan were in another space. Chu Xuehan also entered an independent space. After sending Chu Xuehan into the primal chaos hexlight mirror, Tang Ao went to the ancient formation at the peak of the Flying Star Cliff. At that moment, there were already many people on the ancient formation. Other than Shi Yun, Shui Vulture, the Lu family father and son, as well as the Dan Alliance's Hua Yuan and the others were all there. After Tang Ao arrived, everyone's gazes looked over. Shi Yun lightly laughed in a very carefree manner, then said, I have misjudged you. I never would have thought that you would have such accomplishment. There was not the slightest bit of origin energy around Shi Yun's body, but there was a special kind of undulation. That undulation was very mysterious. It could be seen, but it could not be touched. It was erratic. Before, even Emperor Yulong, who had died for who knows how many tens of thousands of years, almost killed him. Although Tang Ao was not afraid of Shi Yun, he did not dare to be careless. Shui Vulture was not the slightest bit interested in the conversation between Shi Yun and Tang Ao. What about the boy who was with you? Tell him to return my absolute blood net and I'll let bygones be bygones. Before, Tang Ao and Shui Hen escaped together. Shui Vulture knew that his absolute blood net was definitely on Shui Hen. It was because he could not feel the aura of the absolute blood net on Tang Ao's body. Old thing, don't put on an act here. We still have some debts to settle between us. Tang Ao did not care at all about Shui Vulture's threat. Although Shui Vulture's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level of the origin martial realm, compared to Shi Yun, Shui Vulture did not give Tang Ao a very dangerous feeling. Moreover, Tang Ao didn't feel any mysterious fluctuations from the blood vulture's body, as he had sensed from Shi Yun's surroundings. There's no need for you two to waste time. There's still an incense stick's worth of time before this ancient grand array opens once every 1,800 years. When the time came, he would place the 8 fallen star tokens into the grooves of the 8 surrounding stone pillars, and he would be able to open the formation. Right now, with your abilities, you can't do anything to each other. This kind of battle is meaningless. Shi Yun was not speaking nonsense. Tang Ao's cultivation was indeed higher than Xuejio's. However, Xuejio was once a Muddy Heaven Realm expert. Moreover, he cultivated a blood attribute cultivation method. Therefore, he had grasped many secret techniques. With such a gap in cultivation, it was impossible for Tang Ao to kill Bloody Vulture. Similarly, Blood Vulture did not have much of an advantage against the current Tang Ao. It could only be said that Tang Ao could not kill Xuejio, but Tang Ao could suppress Xuejio. There was no doubt about that. Tang Ao naturally knew that Shi Yun's words were reasonable. However, Tang Ao did not expect that Xuejio's cultivation would actually increase so quickly. In order to smoothly open the ancient Grand Array, Tang Ao did not choose to fight with Xuejio. Chapter 1964. In Great Dream Dao Lord's Palace, Tang Ao's only regret was that he didn't obtain any immortal crystals. Immortal crystals were a kind of treasure that contained immortal spiritual power. Using supreme-grade spirit stones to cultivating to the peak of astral reaching realm was already the limit. If one wanted to reach higher realms, they would have to use immortal spiritual power. However, Great Dream Dao Lord's Palace had been visited by Sikong Jiu, so all the immortal crystals had been taken away by him. However, Tang Ao didn't expect that there weren't many immortal crystals in Great Dream Dao Lord's Palace. Because of this, Sikong Jiu took away all the immortal crystals. Time passed by minute, and soon, it was the time it took for an incense stick to burn. At this moment, everyone on the platform felt an incomparably mysterious aura slowly rising in the array square. Shi Tianyun glanced at Tang Ao, then said, "Now." After saying that, Shi Tianyun took out 2 fallen star tokens and slapped them on the 2 stone pillars behind him. After looking at it, Tang Ao hesitated for a moment before taking out the 6 fallen star tokens in his hand and placing them into the corresponding grooves. Suddenly, the originally tranquil ancient array suddenly burst out with a frightening fluctuation. The 8 rune pillars around the array instantly burst out with an incomparably bright radiance. The runes on the rune pillars jumped and converged into a mysterious picture. Then, a beam of light extended from each of the 8 runic arrays, finally converging into a single point in the air. Then, everyone saw a golden spatial passageway appear in the void. Then, the people on the ancient array were instantly sucked into the golden spatial passageway. Once sucked into the golden spatial channel, Tang Ao fiercely spurted out a mouthful of blood. Immediately, Chu Xuehan, Xiao Yun, and even the snow-winged spirit cat and Little Flame were forced out by the powerful repulsive force. Tang Ao didn't have much time to think. With a wave of his hand, a gentle yuan qi wrapped around Chu Xuehan and the others. However, before Tang Ao could do anything else, a violent spatial storm swept through the entire spatial passageway. Soon, Chu Shuahan, Xiao Yun and the other two disappeared from Tang Ao's sight. Only the snow-winged spiritual cat was still clinging to Tang Ao like an octopus. So at this moment, only the snow-winged spiritual cat was still by Tang Ao's side. Even Little Flame, who had transformed from the innate fire origin, was swept away by the spatial storm. Tang Ao instantly summoned the 10,000 Ghosts lock, and Little Flame swept over. Finally, just as Little Flame was about to be engulfed by the spatial storm, Tang Ao's 10,000 Ghosts lock pulled Little Flame back. Tang Ao really did not understand how this ancient array formation could be so powerful. It could be said that this was the first time since Tang Ao had obtained the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror. No. Tang Ao quickly realized that it was not the ancient array formation that was powerful, but the 8 pieces of fallen star token floating quietly not far above his head were too powerful. Previously, Tang Ao knew that the fallen star token and the chaotic 6 light mirror were treasures of the same level. But Tang Ao really did not expect that in the battle between the chaotic 6 light mirror and the fallen star token was obviously a notch higher. Chapter 1965. As long as Tang Ao wanted to, he could easily choose a space passage to enter. But looking at the 8 fallen star tokens flying away above his head, Tang Ao was very unwilling. At this time, Tang Ao saw Chu Shuahan. Wrapped in his own Yuan Qi, Chu Shuahan entered the space passage leading to the ice and snow plane. After entering the space passage, endless spiritual power poured into Chu Shuahan's body, and Chu Shuahan's cultivation recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the other side, Tang Ao saw Bloody Vulture. The space passage that Bloody Vulture was heading towards was called the Desolate Martial Domain. According to the memories of Underworld Emperor and other powerhouses, Tang Ao knew that the Desolate Martial Domain was one of the 36 realms of the true Martial Domain. However, just as Tang Ao was feeling anxious, after Blood Vulture entered the Desolate Martial World, Shi Yun also entered the spatial channel of the Desolate Martial World with a dispirited and listless aura. At the same time, Tang Ao saw that Shi Yun was holding a fallen star token in his hand. When Tang Ao looked up, he saw that only 7 of the 8 fallen star tokens were left. Tang Ao was secretly shocked in his heart. He really could not understand how Shi Yuanyun managed to obtain a falling star token. But before Tang Ao could think about it, Tang Ao was surprised to see that Xiao Yun and Yi Su had also entered the Desolate Martial Domain. Tang Ao was very anxious and wanted to stop them, but at this moment, they couldn't hear his voice. At this time, Tang Ao felt that the 7 fallen star tokens above his head were about to break through their shackles and disappear. At this time, Tang Ao didn't care so much. He directly summoned the Wind and Thunder Dark Cloud and flew towards the 7 fallen star tokens. Although the space turbulence in the space passage was very strong, after Tang Ao summoned the Wind and Thunder Dark Cloud, Tang Ao also slowly approached the 7 fallen star tokens. Sensing Tang Ao's approach, the 7 fallen star tokens shone brightly, as if they were about to escape into the void. But at this time, the snow-winged spirit cat that had been holding on to Tang Ao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blue cold air. This ball of azure cold air was bone-chilling, and even the surrounding space was frozen, leaving behind traces. The 7 meteor tokens were instantly frozen by the cold air. Little guy, well done. Tang Ao didn't know what to do. Tang Ao didn't expect the snow-winged spirit cat to be so powerful. Subsequently, Tang Ao's soul remembrance swept out and swept the 7 meteorite tokens into the chaotic hexlight mirror's space. Tang Ao secretly thought that it was a pity. If he had known that he could get the falling star token like this, Tang Ao would have already taken action. If he had acted earlier, Tang Ao would have already obtained all 8 fallen star tokens. However, what Tang Ao didn't know was that he had already gained a huge advantage. Just now, when the 8 fallen star tokens had gathered together, just how powerful was it? Even for a powerhouse like Shi Yunyun, he had to lose a yellow turban strongman talisman and a grade 8 immortal artifact to forcibly break through the defense of the 8 falling star tokens and finally obtain a falling star token. Even so, Shi Tianyun forcibly snatched a fallen star token and suffered heavy injuries. If Shi Tianyun hadn't broken through the pressure and defense of the 8 fallen star tokens, it would have been impossible for Tang Ao to obtain these 7 fallen star tokens. After Tang Ao took the 7 fallen star tokens, Tang Ao discovered that he could only see 3 passages. One of them was the passage to the desolate martial world. Just now, Shi Tianyun and the others had gone through this space passage. Chapter 1966. Although Tang Ao would go to the true martial realm sooner or later, at this moment, Tang Ao obviously did not plan to go there yet. Soon, Tang Ao's figure flashed and appeared in the space tunnel leading to the black-yellow continent. After entering the space tunnel, Tang Ao immediately felt the spirit chi that he had not felt for a long time. All of a sudden, an endless amount of spirit chi gathered towards Tang Ao. Tang Ao felt as if he was floating in a spirit chi ocean. Meanwhile, Tang Ao's cultivation was also increasing at a visible speed. Moments later, Tang Ao's cultivation had reached the 9th floor of Linghai Jing. Without any pause, Tang Ao's cultivation continued to increase. Not long after, it had recovered to the first level of life and death realm that Tang Ao had before. The Yuan Qi that he had absorbed in the Flying Star continent had all been converted into Spirit Qi. After reaching the first level of life and death realm, the surrounding Spirit Qi was still gathering. At this moment, Tang Ao was like a dry sponge, greedily absorbing and refining the surging Spirit Qi around him. Suddenly, Tang Ao's vision turned white, and Tang Ao flew out of the space tunnel. With a single glance, Tang Ao knew that he had returned to the black-yellow continent. This place was called the Southern Wasteland Mountain Range, which Tang Ao had visited in his previous life. The natural spirit chi here was very abundant, but very few martial artists had set foot in it. There were 2 reasons for this. One was that the demonic beasts here were too powerful, and the second was that there were some very powerful natural restrictions in this area. 9 out of 10 martial artists who were training in this area would be swallowed up by this natural restriction. In his previous life, when Tang Ao was at the peak of the 9th level of astral reaching realm, he had also been trapped in a natural formation for 1,000 years before escaping. In this life, Tang Ao's cultivation had only reached the first level of life and death realm. Logically speaking, it should be even more dangerous. However, right now, Tang Ao felt that this was a good place to be. Because under Tang Ao's sky-polar eyes, everything in the southern wasteland mountain range became extremely clear. Including the natural restrictions and formations hidden within, Tang Ao could see them clearly. After choosing a mountain, Tang Ao's figure flashed and he directly landed on it. With his feet firmly planted, Tang Ao felt an indescribable sense of comfort. Facing the undulating mountains, Tang Ao faced the sky and let out a long roar. His roar shook the forest, and birds and beasts flew everywhere. Feeling the surging spiritual power in his body, Tang Ao could not help but feel happy. At the end of the underworld Emperor Mystic Realm, Tang Ao had been severely injured by Thunder Python and the others. Tang Ao could be put aside for now, but the desolate Thunder Clan's Thunder Python must die. Of course, Tang Ao was not in a hurry to seek revenge on the Thunder Python. At any rate, when Thunder Python had launched a sneak attack on Tang Ao, Thunder Python and the others' cultivation bases were no weaker than Tang Ao's. After such a long time, their cultivation bases must have grown even stronger. However, Tang Ao was not worried. After looting Great Dream Dao Lord's Dao Palace, Tang Ao had obtained a mountain of extreme rank spirit stones. At this moment, Tang Ao's injuries were completely healed, and he was at his peak condition. These extreme rank spirit stones could immediately be converted into real cultivation. Once his cultivation increased a bit, it would be time to collect debts from the Thunder family and the others. Chapter 1967. At this moment, millions of supreme-grade spirit stones were piled up around Tang Ao like a small mountain. Not to mention this many supreme-grade spirit stones, even the spirit chi of these low-grade spirit stones was extremely frightening. Under Tang Ao's guidance, the spirit chi of these supreme-grade spirit stones converged into a huge whirlpool above Tang Ao's head. This spirit chi then flowed into Tang Ao's body and was absorbed and refined by Tang Ao. This huge amount of spirit chi naturally made the snow-winged spirit cat and little flame feel extremely comfortable. The flying star continent that the two little fellows lived in didn't even have spirit chi. But, after coming into contact with spirit chi, they immediately discovered that the effect of cultivating with spirit chi was dozens of times stronger than cultivating with yuan chi. Moreover, they didn't use ordinary spirit chi, but the purest spirit chi of supreme-grade spirit stones. Even when Tang Ao broke through to astral reaching realm in his previous life, Tang Ao didn't use supreme-grade spirit stones like this. It was not that Tang Ao didn't want to, but that Tang Ao didn't have so many supreme-grade spirit stones on him. But, in this life, Tang Ao was only at life and death realm, yet he had such frightening cultivation resources. Therefore, in any case, Tang Ao's achievements in this life couldn't be compared to his previous life. With this huge amount of supreme-grade spirit stones, Tang Ao's cultivation speed was also astonishing. With every passing moment, Tang Ao's cultivation base was rapidly increasing. This time, Tang Ao once again witnessed the terror of 9 dragons' Emperor Jade body. Tang Ao cultivated on this small mountain for 3 years. The supreme-grade spirit stones around Tang Ao had long been used up by him. In these 3 years, Tang Ao had only done 2 things. One was to increase his cultivation base, and the other was to comprehend his fate spirits. At this moment, Tang Ao's cultivation base had already reached life and death realm's 7th level, which was the strength of late life and death realm. And in these 3 years, the number of Tang Ao's fate spirits had skyrocketed. Until now, Tang Ao had awakened nearly 600 fate spirit. If it were an ordinary martial artist, even if their cultivation base reached peak astral reaching realm 9th level, they wouldn't dare to imagine that they could awaken so many fate spirit. Even in his previous life, Tang Ao had only awakened 81 fate spirit. But in this life, after Tang Ao awakened 9 dragons' Emperor Jade body, Tang Ao's soul will was too powerful. At this moment, there were many fate spirits roaming in Tang Ao's sea of soul. At this moment, there were many fate spirits roaming in Tang Ao's sea of soul. At this moment, Tang Ao finally understood why the legendary divine kings all had the 9 dragons' Emperor's jade body or a physique comparable to the 9 dragons' Emperor's jade body. It was because such a physique was too heaven-defying. Such a physique could be said that as long as they didn't die prematurely, then, given time, they would certainly become a powerful expert. Of course, the supreme-grade spirit stones on Tang Ao hadn't been used up yet, but Tang Ao didn't plan to continue cultivating. His cultivation base had advanced by leaps and bounds this time, so Tang Ao needed some time to settle down. Moreover, Tang Ao continued cultivating. Even though he used supreme-grade spirit stones, Tang Ao's cultivation speed was still a lot slower. According to this cultivation speed, Tang Ao estimated that he would need another 5 or 6 years to break through to astral reaching realm. However, Tang Ao clearly couldn't wait that long. Although there was a saying that cultivation was timeless, Tang Ao had been in the black-yellow continent for a long time already. This time, Tang Ao planned to return to Bluestone City to take a look before returning to Seven Kill Sect. Chapter 1968. The Southern Wasteland Mountain Range was located in the southernmost part of the Black-Yellow Continent. It was not close to Bluestone City. However, Tang Ao was using the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud to travel. Therefore, he did not feel that the distance was too far. Not long after, the outline of Bluestone City appeared in front of Tang Ao. He had not been back for many years, but Bluestone City had not changed much. However, after seeing the flag with the word Qin written on it, Tang Ao immediately became angry. Bluestone City was built by Tang Ao for several generations. As for the Qin clan, if it was not for his father, Tang Zhan, being soft-hearted, it would have been difficult for them to settle down in Bluestone City. However, even his father did not expect that the kind-looking Qin Wudao was actually an ingrate with a human face but a beast's heart. At this moment, he had become the lord of Bluestone City. Tang Ao did not act immediately. Tang Ao wanted to return to Tang residence and see what was going on. Although he had not been back for 18 years, Tang Ao was still very clear about everything in Bluestone City. However, the current Bluestone City was not as lively as he remembered it to be. In Tang Ao's memory, Bluestone City had always been very lively. However, walking in Bluestone City, although he could see a lot of people, most of them were avoiding eye contact. Especially some young women, they had wrapped themselves up tightly. Tang Ao felt strange. He did not understand what was going on in Bluestone City. Tang Ao was familiar with the road. Soon, he arrived at the entrance of Tang residence. As soon as he entered, Tang Ao was immediately stopped by two middle-aged cultivators. These two people were full of hostility. Their hands were obviously stained with blood. Tang residence is not receiving guests today. Leave quickly. Hearing these two people, Tang Ao's eyes narrowed. He then coldly said, "Scram." Tang Ao did not hold anything back with that cold snort of his. Thick spiritual energy swept out and the two peak stage 9th level origin realm martial artists were instantly shaken to the point that their blood and chi churned and they spat out an arrow of blood. The two of them looked as if they had seen a ghost. They couldn't believe that the young man in front of them was actually such an expert. If it wasn't for the fact that Tang Ao didn't understand the situation, Tang Ao definitely wouldn't let these two guys off lightly. He was the young master of the Tang family, so when did he become an outsider? Although Tang Ao did not return home many times, as Tang Ao's attendant, it was impossible for him not to know who Tang Ao was. Moreover, because of cultivation, Tang Ao's temperament had changed a little, but his appearance had not changed much. As soon as Tang Ao walked into the Tang residence, he heard a burst of cursing in the living room. The one cursing was a young girl. Although she was cursing, Tang Ao found that her voice was very comfortable. "Tang Chu, you are just an adopted son adopted by my uncle in the army. This Bluestone City and the Tang residence belong to me, big brother Tang Ao. What right do you have to take it away? Let me tell you, as long as I, Tang Yun, am here today, you can't be the master of the Tang residence." After speaking, the young girl put her hands on her waist and looked at the two people in front of her with disdain. After Tang Ao heard the young girl call him big brother, the image of a little girl who followed him when he was a child immediately appeared in his mind. In Tang Ao's impression, this little girl loved to cry. Every time she cried, he would buy her some candy to comfort her. However, Tang Ao didn't think that the little crybaby would grow into a slender and elegant beauty so quickly. Chapter 1969. Now, for some reason, he actually wanted the position of Bluestone City's lord and wanted to be the Tang family's patriarch. As for the woman next to Tang Chu, Tang Ao only glanced at her and felt disgusted. Of course, it was not because the woman's appearance was ugly. On the contrary, the woman's appearance was very flirtatious and her figure was not bad. What made Tang Ao feel disgusted was that the woman's aura was very messy. Obviously, she was not a good person. Sister Yun Yun, for the sake of our childhood friendship, I won't make things difficult for you today. You can leave, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. As Tang Chu spoke, his body also erupted with spirit qi. In an instant, the aura of the first level of the Sea of Souls realm was undoubtedly revealed. After the surrounding people felt the powerful aura of Tang Chu at the first level of the Sea of Souls realm, they were all secretly speechless. In a place like Bluestone City, not to mention Sea of Souls realm warriors, even Origin Martial realm warriors were rare. Tang Chu was able to cultivate to the Sea of Souls realm outside and return, which could be considered as returning home in glory. However, this Tang Chu obviously did not have the intention to repay the Tang family. Instead, he became an ingrate as soon as he came back. "Humph, I'm not afraid of you." Tang Yun was not frightened by Tang Chu's imposing manner. These years, Tang Yun also entered a sect. After breaking through to the Sea of Souls realm, Tang Yun wanted to go back to Bluestone City to see Tang Ao, because Tang Yun remembered that her cousin was tested to be unable to cultivate. However, Tang Yun did not expect that when she came back, not only did she not see Tang Ao, but she also saw Tang Chu, the ingrate. If she did not succeed in her cultivation this time, or if she came back a step late, then both Bluestone City and the Tang family would have fallen into the hands of Tang Chu. If Tang Chu really wanted to be the Tang family's patriarch and take over Bluestone City, then it would be fine. The key was that this time, Tang Chu was obviously just a foil, and the real protagonist was the woman next to Tang Chu. This woman seemed to be Tang Chu's mistress, and Tang Chu could be said to be obedient to her. Moreover, this woman gave Tang Yun a very uncomfortable feeling. Tang Yun was not afraid of Tang Chu, but she was very afraid of this woman. In addition, Tang Yun also learned. This woman's name was Qin Mansha, an illegitimate daughter of the Qin clan's patriarch, Qin Wudao. After understanding the grudges between the Qin family and the Tang family, Tang Yun did not have a good impression of this woman. "Get lost. I'm going to take the Tang mansion today. You can't stop me." This time, it was Qin Mansha who spoke. Although she looked good, her words were not polite at all. As she spoke, an astonishing amount of spiritual energy was emitted from her body. The entire reception hall of the Tang residence was immediately filled with an oppressive atmosphere. Life and death realm warrior. Tang Yun's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. She had only felt this level of spiritual pressure from her master and a few elders of the sect. Tang Yun was secretly surprised. She didn't expect this woman from the Qin family to be so powerful. Is that so? After looking outside the door for a moment, Tang Ao had a basic understanding of what was going on. Therefore, Tang Ao casually pushed open the door and entered. Even though Tang Ao had left Bluestone City for 18 years, Uncle Fu still recognized Tang Ao at first glance. Chapter 1970. Big Brother Tang Ao? Because they hadn't seen each other for so long, Tang Yun couldn't recognize Tang Ao. However, when Tang Ao walked in front of her, touched her head, and called her a little crybaby, Tang Yun's face immediately turned red. At the same time, she was sure that the person in front of her was Tang Ao. Young master is back. Seeing Tang Ao come in, everyone in the Tang clan looked happy. When Tang Ao awakened the Azure Lotus Sword soul and shocked the entire Heavenly Dream dynasty, the 8 great sects extended an olive branch to Tang Ao together. In the end, Tang Ao chose the 7 Kills sect to cultivate. In these 18 years, Tang Ao must have become even more powerful. Tang Chu, how did my father die in battle? After greeting Uncle Fu and the others, Tang Ao's face immediately turned cold, and the aura on his body instantly became fierce. However, because of the 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body, No one, including Qin Mansha, could see through Tang Ao's cultivation. I don't know. Before Tang Chu could finish his sentence, he felt his vision blur. Then, he found himself being grabbed by the neck and lifted up. He couldn't even breathe. Being subdued by Tang Ao without even knowing it, Tang Chu's eyes looked like he had seen a ghost. Although his cultivation was not as powerful as before, he was still a warrior at the first level of the Seas of Soul's realm. How could Tang Ao control him so easily? Could it be that Tang Ao was also a life and death realm warrior like Qin Mansha? But this was impossible. He knew better than anyone how Qin Mansha's cultivation came about. Qin Mansha had sucked more men dry than he had killed on the battlefield. Looking at the pure spirit qi around Tang Ao, it was obvious that he hadn't cultivated a similar cultivation technique. How did my father, Tang Zhan, die in battle? Tang Ao didn't waste time and asked coldly again. At the same time, Tang Ao secretly increased his strength. If Tang Chu hesitated for even a moment, he would immediately break Tang Chu's neck. In the hall, Uncle Fu and the others were stunned. Everyone believed that with Tang Ao's talent in the martial Dao, he would definitely have extraordinary achievements after studying in the Seven Kills sect for so long. However, no one could believe that Tang Ao had become this powerful. Tang Chu, who was at the first level of the Seas of Soul's realm, did not even have a chance to fight back in front of Tang Ao. Tang Yun's big eyes were filled with surprise. She herself was a Spirit Sea Realm warrior, so she knew very well how strong a Spirit Sea Realm warrior was. But just now, she didn't see how Tang Ao restrained Tang Chu. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Tang Yun wouldn't have believed that her cousin had become so terrifying. With this kind of strength, even if Tang Ao did not have the cultivation of Life and Death Realm, he should not be much weaker than Life and Death Realm experts. When Tang Yun saw that Qin Mansha was a Life and Death Realm expert, she felt a little hopeless. But now, the appearance of Tang Ao gave Tang Yun hope. Put him down, break one of your arms, and then get lost. After Tang Ao suddenly made a move to restrain Tang Chu, Qin Mansha hesitated for a while before reacting. Although she didn't see how Tang Ao made a move to restrain Tang Chu, Qin Mansha didn't think that Tang Ao's cultivation would be stronger than hers. In order to have her current cultivation, only she knew how much she had sacrificed. Tang Ao seemed to be about the same age as her, so Qin Mansha absolutely didn't believe that Tang Ao's cultivation could surpass hers. Chapter 1971. With these people's loyalty to their father, they naturally wouldn't hand the Tang family over to an outsider like Tang Chu. Therefore, if nothing unexpected happened, the Tang family's people would definitely die. With a jolt of Tang Ao's spiritual power, Tang Chu's recently condensed spirit sea instantly shattered and all of his meridians were broken by Tang Ao. If it wasn't for the fact that he still had questions to ask in a bit, Tang Chu would already be a dead man. Impudent! Seeing Tang Ao directly cripple Tang Chu, Qin Mansha immediately flew into a rage. Although Tang Chu was a bit trash, he was still the man that Qin Mansha liked. Tang Ao daring to cripple Tang Chu in front of her was courting death. As Qin Mansha spoke, her spiritual power exploded. Under Qin Mansha's powerful spiritual power, the surrounding Tang family people were almost forced to kneel down. Scram! The Tang family isn't a place for you to behave atrociously. Tang Ao waved his sleeve and the pressure that Qin Mansha brought to everyone immediately disappeared. Immediately after, Tang Ao extended his hand and a spiritual power hand wrapped around Qin Mansha. Qin Mansha cultivated a yin to yang cultivation method. Tang Ao could naturally tell at a glance. After scanning Qin Mansha's soul with his soul remembrance, Tang Ao instantly flew into a rage. At this time, Tang Ao also understood why Bluestone City had become so oppressive. It turned out that Qin Mansha had been wantonly capturing strong men in the city, and Tang Chu, who had been crippled by him, had harmed a lot of young girls in Bluestone City. It was also because of this that the atmosphere in Limestone City had become so oppressive. In fact, many of Limestone City's commoners had already begun to flee to neighboring cities. Only, because of the chaos in the surroundings, these people had been forced to return to Limestone City. After understanding this, Tang Ao didn't hold back and instantly summoned his netherworld flame. She instantly summoned the netherworld flame. After seeing Tang Ao's netherworld flame, Qin Mansha immediately felt the threat of death. Currently, the netherworld flame had already advanced to the 9th grade spirit flame level, and its might was extremely terrifying. Big brother Tang Ao, don't kill me. Don't you like Qin Yueru? Look at me, don't I look very similar to Sister Qin Yueru? I'm willing to wholeheartedly serve you from now on, please let me go. Before Tang Ao attacked, Qin Mansha definitely didn't believe that Tang Ao was stronger than her. However, after Tang Ao attacked, Qin Mansha immediately understood that Tang Ao's cultivation was stronger than hers. Moreover, his strength was not just a little bit. In front of Tang Ao, she did not even have the leeway to resist. Otherwise, Tang Ao wouldn't have been able to lift him up with just a spiritual force handprint. You dare compare yourself to Yueru? Hearing Qin Mansha's words, Tang Ao raised his hand and threw Qin Mansha into the netherworld flame. Qin Yueru, Tang Ao. Resist Qin, Tang. After a scream, Qin Mansha was burned into nothingness by Tang Ao's netherworld flame. The two people who were aggressive just now were all destroyed by Tang Ao in the blink of an eye. Tang Chu looked at Tang Ao at this time and laughed. Seeing that Tang Ao didn't even let Qin Mansha go, Tang Chu naturally understood that Tang Ao wouldn't let him go today. Especially Tang Zhan's death. He couldn't get away from it. Ha ha ha, Tang Ao, I didn't expect a waste like you to achieve what you have today. I, Tang Chu, admit defeat, but you will never know how Tang Zhan died. After Tang Chu finished speaking, his face turned fierce and he was about to bite off his tongue. But at this moment, Tang Ao took a step forward and arrived in front of Tang Chu. Then Tang Ao spat out two cold words without any emotion, soul-devouring. After speaking, Tang Ao slapped Tang Chu's head with his palm. Immediately, the entire Tang residence could hear Tang Chu's pig-like scream. Soul-devouring was a very cruel punishment. Usually, only some heinous people would have their souls devoured. Chapter 1972. From the moment Tang Ao entered the Tang residence's hall to when Tang Ao killed Qin Mansha and Tang Chu, only the time it took to brew a cup of tea had passed. But at that moment, in the Tang residence's hall, everyone's emotions could not calm down. 18 years ago, Tang Ao followed an elder of the Seven Kills School to train in the Seven Kills School. After 18 years there was no news of him. No one expected that Tang Ao would return when the Tang clan was in danger. After returning, he even killed Tang Chu and Qin Mansha in an incomparably domineering manner. Just at that moment, a Tang clan's cultivator stumbled into the Tang residence's entrance. After entering, this person did not pay attention to Tang Ao. With a sobbing tone, he said, "Uncle Fu, the Tang clan's disciples that were captured by the Qin clan were all executed by Qin Wudao in the Bluestone City's martial practice field." Gotcha. Hearing this, Uncle Fu was immediately enraged. He smashed the tea table in front of him into pieces. 2 days ago, the guards of the Qin clan came to the Tang residence and took away 30 people for investigation. The Tang clan was weak and was powerless to stop them. But Uncle Fu never expected that Qin Wudao would be so daring as to kill people from the Tang clan. What happened? Tang Ao's voice was very cold. Tang Ao really did not expect that after all these years, the Tang clan had been forced into such a state by the Qin clan. The Qin clan even dared to execute the Tang clan's disciples. Also, Qin Wudao dared to execute the Tang clan's disciples in the martial practice field. Could it be that he, Qin Wudao, is the current city master of Bluestone City? Hearing Tang Ao's question, the Tang clan's people looked at each other and lowered their heads. Uncle Fu let out a long sigh, then said, "Young master, this old servant is useless." Tang Ao raised his hand and interrupted Uncle Fu's words. Tang Ao already understood. Back then, he had an agreement with the envoy of the Heavenly Dream Dynasty. Within 3 years, he had to break through to the Origin Martial Realm. Although he had already broken through to the Origin Martial Realm, Tang Ao did not have the time to rush back to Bluestone City. So, Bluestone City was taken back by the Heavenly Dream Dynasty. Somehow, Qin Wudao was appointed as the city master of Bluestone City. Uncle Fu, did the Heavenly Dream Dynasty take back the position of the City Lord of Bluestone City because I didn't come for 3 years? In the end, Qin Wudao was conferred the title of City Lord? Tang Ao felt rather helpless in his heart. After leaving Cyan Stone City to cultivate for 3 years, he was already a powerful Sea of Souls realm, let alone a mere Origin realm. But at that time, he did not have the chance to return to Bluestone City. AI. Hearing Tang Ao's words, Uncle Fu let out a long sigh and said, "Sigh. The Heavenly Dream Dynasty didn't wait for 3 years." Half a year after the young master left, the emissary of the Heavenly Dream Dynasty arrived at Bluestone City once again. He immediately took back the position of Tang Clan's City Lord and conferred the title of City Lord to Qin Clan's Qin Wudao. At first, because young master was cultivating in the Seven Kills sect, Qin Wudao was somewhat afraid and didn't dare to do anything to the Tang residents. At this point, Uncle Fu paused for a moment before continuing. However, a few years ago, Qin Wudao somehow received news that young master had died. Therefore, the Qin family began to suppress the Tang family. If not for Lady Tang Yun taking care of the Tang family, I'm afraid the Tang family would have already been burned to the ground by the Qin family. Hearing Uncle Fu's words, the aura around Tang Ao's body was so cold that it was somewhat frightening. No matter if it was the Heavenly Dream Dynasty or the Qin family, they were both extremely detestable. Now, he would go and exterminate the Qin family. Then, he would deal with the Heavenly Dream Dynasty. Chapter 1973. Seeing Tang Ao and the others come out, the 2 martial artists guarding the gate of the Tang residence immediately took out their weapons. City Lord Qin has ordered that the Tang family's martial artists are not allowed to leave the Tang residence without permission. Those who disobey will be executed immediately. The 2 of them were taught a lesson by Tang Ao and they were a bit afraid. However, when they remembered that Tang Chu and Qin Mansha were in the Tang residence, the 2 of them immediately relaxed. Tang Ao thought that the 2 of them were martial artists from the Tang family, so Tang Ao didn't use too much force. Now, Tang Ao understood that the 2 of them were dogs sent by Qin Wudao to monitor the people of the Tang residence. Executed immediately? Today, I, Tang Ao, want to see who can execute me. Tang Ao said and took the lead to walk out. When Tang Ao walked out, the 2 martial artists also clenched their teeth, raised their blades and chopped towards Tang Ao's head. Tang Ao's gaze turned cold. He raised his hand and threw out 2 rays of sword energy. Under the 2's horrified gazes, the spiritual energy in their bodies slowly disappeared and they quickly fell to the ground. After cultivating to the Origin martial realm, they had been tyrannical in Limestone City for too long. The 2 of them didn't expect that the Tang family would have such a powerful martial artist who dared to kill them. At that moment, the 2 of them felt endless regret in their hearts. However, at that moment, no matter how much regret they felt, it was useless. After their bodies fell to the ground, the 2 of them completely lost consciousness. Tang Ao wasn't a bloodthirsty person, but towards his enemies, Tang Ao would never be soft-hearted. Tang Ao's decisive style of killing made the Tang family members' blood boil. They had been suppressed by the Qin family for too long. At that moment, they needed to use the blood of the Qin family's martial artists to vent the suppressed emotions in their heart. Tang Ao didn't directly go to the Qin family because he heard that Qin Wudao had executed the Tang family's disciples at the martial practice field. Therefore, Tang Ao felt that Qin Wudao should be at the martial practice field. Bluestone City's training grounds were once used by Tangzhan to train the city guards. These soldiers were all juniors of the Tang family. In the past, the Tang family juniors had perspired on this martial stage. But no one could have imagined that today, the boiling hot blood of the Tang family juniors would be spilled here. Although the scene was very bloody, there were still many people gathered here. These people were not here to watch the show, but to collect the corpses of the Tang family disciples who had died unjustly. Even though the Tang family was no longer the city lord of Bluestone City, none of the citizens of Bluestone City would forget the kindness of the Tang family. However, the person guarding the martial field was Qin Wudao's foster son, Qin Taizhou. This person was vicious and merciless, so no one dared to collect the corpses of the Tang family's disciples. They could only watch quietly, waiting for Qin Taizhou to leave. Qin Taizhou obviously understood what these people were thinking. He immediately sneered and said, "What? Were there no more men in the Tang family? Do I need you wretches to collect the corpses of the Tang family? Ha!" Following Qin Tieshou's words, the Qin family's martial artists behind him also laughed loudly. The moment Tang Ao arrived at the martial practice field, he saw Qin Taizhou and the others laughing wildly, as well as the scene of a group of Tang family juniors dying tragically on the martial practice field. Immediately, Tang Ao's expression turned ice-cold. In his 2 lifetimes of cultivation, Tang Ao had not been angry many times. However, every time Tang Ao was angry, the person who made Tang Ao angry would have to pay a corresponding price. Chapter 1974. After sensing Tang Ao's aura, Qin Taizhou stopped his unbridled laughter. Qin Taizhou was different from the other martial artists of the Qin family. Although Qin Taizhou was adopted by Qin Wudao, he had been traveling with his master. Although his cultivation was not high, he still had some experience. Just by looking at Tang Ao's aura, Qin Taizhou knew that Tang Ao was not easy to deal with. "Friend, the Qin family and the Tang family have grudges for a long time. This is not your problem, so please leave quickly." At this moment, Qin Taizhou did not treat Tang Ao as a member of the Tang family. In Qin Tieshou's opinion, if the Tang family really had a powerhouse like Tang Ao, they would have already come out to resist. Remember, the person who killed you is called Tang Ao. Seeing that Qin Wudao was not around, Tang Ao did not want to stay here any longer. After Tang Ao finished speaking, the netherworld flame instantly swept out. Seeing that Tang Ao had casually thrown out a ball of flame, Qin Taizhou did not care at all. Moreover, Qin Taizhou felt that he had overestimated Tang Ao. Tang Ao was not that terrifying. It wasn't that Qin Taizhou hadn't seen any powerhouses over the years. Among the powerful martial artists that Qin Taizhou had seen, which one of them didn't have a powerful aura? Which one didn't throw a fireball like Tang Ao? In fact, those people that Qin Taizhou had seen were basically using their full strength or fighting with martial artists of the same level. But Tang Ao naturally did not need to use his full strength to deal with this group of people. Otherwise, if Tang Ao used his full strength, the entire Bluestone City would be turned into ruins in an instant. After all, Tang Ao's cultivation was already at the life and death 7th stage, late life and death realm. This kind of cultivation had already surpassed most of the 7 kills sex elders. When Tang Ao's fireball swept out, Qin Taizhou directly reached out to grab at Tang Ao's fireball. After being frightened by Tang Ao, Qin Taizhou was prepared to use the most shocking method to crush Tang Ao's fireball. Qin Tieshou's skills were all on his hands. If a normal martial artist wanted to crush a fireball with their hands, it would be asking for trouble. But to Qin Taizhou, it was not difficult at all. After years of training, Qin Tieshou's pair of iron hands were already comparable to a grade 4 spiritual weapon. After years of training, Qin Tieshou's pair of iron hands were already comparable to a grade 4 spiritual weapon. It was not just Qin Taizhou. When the cultivators behind Qin Taizhou saw Tang Ao make his move, they all revealed mocking gazes. One had a martial artist from a small sect passed by clan and came to stop the clan. Qin clan's Tian clans. As a result, the two sides clashed. That person cultivated a saber technique, but after he slashed out with his saber, it was caught by Qin Taizhou with his bare hands. After breaking that person's treasured saber, Qin Taizhou chopped off that warrior's head. Because of this, Qin Taizhou became famous in Bluestone City, and no one dared to offend him. Now that they saw a martial artist using a fireball to deal with Qin Taizhou, the Qin clan members naturally looked at Tang Ao mockingly. However, the expressions of the Qin clan's disciples quickly changed. This was because when Tang Ao's fireball collided with Qin Taizhou, everyone heard Qin Taizhou cry out in pain. Chapter 1975. Without waiting for the Qin family's warriors to react, they discovered that after Qin Taizhou was burned into nothingness, the fireball suddenly dispersed and turned into countless fireballs that flew towards them. The Qin family's warriors wanted to escape, but none of them could do so. After letting out a scream, the Qin family's warriors followed Qin Tieshou's footstep. After decisively killing the Qin family's warriors, Tang Ao said to the Tang family's warriors, "Uncle Fu, arrange for these Tang family's warriors to be buried. The rest of you, follow me to the Qin manor." Tang Ao said and walked towards the Qin manor. This scene happened too fast and too shocking. Only after Tang Ao left for a long time did the citizens of Bluestone City react. The Qin family that had been doing evil in Bluestone City finally got their retribution. The Tang family invited such a powerful young man from who knows where. Even Qin Taizhou couldn't survive one attack from him. Now that the Tang family's warriors were going to the Qin manor, they were definitely going to fight the Qin family. Thinking about that, the citizens of Bluestone City were quite excited. The Qin family's actions in Bluestone City had already reached a point where they were hated by the people. However, the citizens didn't dare to say anything. This time, with the return of the powerful Tang family warriors, the Qin family was finally going to suffer. Everyone felt that the young man from the Tang family was a bit familiar, but as for who he was, no one could remember. Soon, a woman looked at Tang Ao's back and seemed to remember something, but she was a bit uncertain. Although when Tang Ao left Bluestone City, he shocked the entire Heavenly Dream dynasty. Obviously, this woman didn't dare to believe that in a short 18 years, Tang Ao had such achievements. Although this woman didn't enter a top sect like the Seven Kills School, she still entered a small sect to cultivate. However, she had only cultivated to the 7th level of the Origin Martial Realm. Tang Ao could burn Iron Hand Qin into nothingness with one fireball, which meant that Tang Ao was at least a Sea of Souls realm warrior. He seems to be Tang Ao. After hesitating for a moment, the woman said what was on her mind. Although her voice wasn't loud, everyone around her heard it. That expert from the Tang family was actually young Master Tang Ao? Is that true? After all, Tang Ao had a bad reputation in Bluestone City for a long time. No one could have imagined that Tang Ao would be so terrifying after his return. I also thought he looked like young Master Tang Ao. I didn't expect him to be. While everyone was talking, Uncle Fu said from the stage, "Everyone, please calm down. That was our Tang Manor's young Master Tang Ao. Young Master Tang Ao has just returned from the Seven Kills sect. He's here to flatten the Qin manor and restore peace to Bluestone City. From now on, we don't have to live in fear anymore." When Uncle Fu said that, everyone immediately cheered. Qin Wudao was like his name. Ever since he became the city lord of Bluestone City, the citizens of Bluestone City never had a day of peace. Especially after Tang Chu and Qin Mansha came to Bluestone City, who knew how many young men and women fell into their hands. Chapter 1976. However, Qin Wudao didn't feel uncomfortable at all. On the contrary, he felt extremely comfortable. After Qin Yueshuang of the Qin residence joined the Heavenly Star Sacred Sect, Qin Yueshuang married into the desolate Xiahou family. At first, Qin Yueshuang and Qin Wudao still kept in touch through letters. However, as time went by, the communication between the two became less and less. Now, Qin Wudao couldn't even contact Qin Yueshuang. Fortunately, Qin Wudao learned that his illegitimate daughter, Qin Mansha, had become the disciple of the Yin Fusion sect's great elder. Compared to a colossus like the Heavenly Star Sacred Sect, the Yin Fusion sect was nothing. However, compared to the Qin family's Heavenly Dream Dynasty, the Yin Fusion sect's sect master was not inferior to the Heavenly Dream Dynasty's king. Qin Mansha had become the Yin Fusion sect's great elder's personal disciple. As her father, he naturally rose in status. However, just like Qin Yueshuang, Qin Mansha had awakened the Myrtle Fate Life Soul and wanted to use the Destiny Stone to awaken the Myrtle Fate Dao Physique. Because of this, Yin Fusion sect's Feng Yao brought Qin Mansha to the small Bluestone City. Feng Yao came to Bluestone City because Qin Yueshuang obtained a piece of Destiny Stone from the Tang clan. Therefore, she wanted to see if the Tang clan had a second Destiny Stone. However, he had killed many Tang family martial artists in the past few days. Feng Yao didn't know whether the Tang family martial artists were too tight-lipped or simply didn't know anything about the Destiny Stone. Just as Feng Yao and Qin Wudao were drinking tea, a Qin family martial artist suddenly rushed in with a hurried expression. "Family head, something bad has happened," the martial artist hurriedly said when he saw Qin Wudao. "What are you panicking for? With Mr. Feng Yao here, do you think the sky will fall?" Through his daughter, Qin Wudao already knew that the Feng Yao in front of him was a fifth-layer life and death realm expert. In the past, Qin Wudao wouldn't have dared to imagine that he would one day be able to sit and drink tea with a life and death realm 5th stage expert. He had a total of 3 daughters, 2 sons, and a foster son. Putting aside his illegitimate daughter, Qin Yueru, his other illegitimate daughters, Qin Mansha and Qin Yueshuang, had brought him great honor. Although he rarely corresponded with Qin Yueshuang now, it was an indisputable fact that Qin Yueshuang had entered the Heavenly Star Sacred Sect and married into the Xiahou family of the desolate antiquity. As for Qin Mansha, she was not simple either. She had actually become the disciple of a 5th stage life and death realm warrior. After all, the state protector of the Heavenly Dream Dynasty was also an expert at this level. But what was Qin Wudao's status? It was impossible to meet the master protector of the state. "Patriarch, I've just received news. The young lord of the Tang clan, Tang Ao, has returned from the 7 Kills sect. Moreover, young Master Tang Chu and young Lady Qin Mansha have already been killed by Tang Ao." This martial artist was Qin Wudao's trusted aide. Because the news was too shocking, he even went to investigate it himself. And the result of his investigation was that Tang Chu and Qin Mansha had been killed by Tang Ao. If this was said by someone else, Qin Wudao would naturally not believe it. However, the one who said it was his trusted aide, Qin Kuang. He had no choice but to believe it. After hearing this news, Qin Wudao only felt a pressure on his chest. Even breathing became somewhat difficult. A moment later, Qin Wudao opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1977. When Feng Yao heard this news, he wasn't as excited as Qin Wudao. This was because Feng Yao didn't believe that there was someone in this small limestone city that could kill Qin Mansha. Even killing Tang Chu wasn't an easy task, let alone killing his beloved disciple Qin Mansha. If it weren't for Qin Wudao being so excited, Feng Yao would have slapped this nonsense-talking martial artist to death. Although he was sure that Qin Mansha was fine, Feng Yao still took out Qin Mansha's soul tablet to take a look. In many sects or some of the larger aristocratic families, everyone had a soul tablet. Qin Mansha was Feng Yao's direct disciple, so Qin Mansha's soul tablet was on Feng Yao. Feng Yao's soul remembrance swept over Qin Mansha's soul tablet, and Feng Yao's face immediately changed. Feng Yao stepped forward, grabbed Qin Kuang and lifted him into the air. Who did it? Who killed my beloved disciple? Feng Yao's veins popped out, as if he wanted to swallow Qin Kuang. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Kuang violently coughed a few times and hastily said, "It's Tang Ao. Tang Clan's Tang Ao has returned. Young Master Tang Chu and young Lady Qin Mansha were both killed by Tang Ao." Feng Yao threw Qin Kuang away like he was throwing trash, and then looked at Qin Wudao and asked, "Who is Tang Ao? How could he kill my beloved disciple?" Qin Mansha and Feng Yao's relationship wasn't as simple as teacher and disciple. Feng Yao's cultivation technique also required Qin Mansha's help. Without Qin Mansha, Feng Yao would still be at the first level of life and death realm. How could he become Yin Sect's great elder? Yin Sect wasn't one of the black-yellow 8 great sects, nor was it one of the ancient desolate 6 great families. However, many people knew that compared to these 14 factions, Yin Sect wasn't much weaker. The reason why the Yin Integration Sect wasn't included among these forces was because the Yin Integration Sect's cultivation method was too special. Tang Ao is a 7-kill sect's martial artist, as well as the Tang clan's young master. As far as I know, this Tang Ao has been missing for many years. I never expected that he would actually appear here. Just as Qin Wudao finished speaking, another Qin family cultivator ran in. "Patriarch, something bad has happened. Young Master Qin Taizhou was killed by Tang Ao in the martial arts arena." At this moment, Tang Ao is leading a group of warriors from the Tang clan towards the Qin manor. When Qin Wudao heard this, he spat out another mouthful of blood. This detestable Tang Ao had not only killed his daughter in one day, but now he had also killed his adopted son, Qin Taishou. Good timing. At this moment, Feng Yao had calmed down a little. However, Feng Yao still had the intention to kill Tang Ao. With Qin Mansha's help, Feng Yao was confident that he could reach the astral reaching realm within 100 years. But now, after Qin Mansha was killed by Tang Ao, Feng Yao no longer had any hope. A woman with the purple myrtle Dao body could be said to be 1 in 10,000. Qin Wudao also had a daughter, Qin Yueshuang. Although she also had the purple myrtle Dao body and had awakened it through the Destiny Stone, Feng Yao didn't have the guts to do anything to Qin Yueshuang. However, Feng Yao didn't have the guts to do anything to Qin Yueshuang because she was the wife of Xiahou Linyuan of the primordial Xiahou clan. He wouldn't provoke her unless he was tired of living. Chapter 1978. After throwing Qin Taishou out, Tang Ao scanned with his soul remembrance, and his expression changed. Even now, in the Qin family's prison, there were still many Tang family disciples being tortured. The reason these people were being tortured was because the Qin family wanted to know everything about the Destiny Stone. Although the Destiny Stone from Tang Ao had already been used by Qin Yueshuang, the Qin family clearly believed that if the Tang family had a Destiny Stone, there must be someone who knew about it. There might even be a second Destiny Stone. In reality, the Tang family didn't have a second Destiny Stone. Instead, Tang Ao had obtained a destiny stone from Great Dream Dao Lord's Dao Palace. However, the Qin family clearly believed that if the Tang family had a destiny stone, there must be someone who knew about it. There might even be a second destiny stone. In reality, the Tang family didn't have a second destiny stone. Instead, Tang Ao had obtained a destiny stone from Great Dream Dao Lord's Dao Palace. However, Tang Ao had changed his mind. Tang Ao had decided to completely flatten the Qin family. At the moment, in the Qin family's prison, there were many Tang family martial artists who had been tortured beyond recognition. There were even a few Tang family martial artists who had been in the water prison for a long time that their bodies were starting to rot. Seeing this, Tang Ao looked at Qin Wudao with an even more bone-chilling gaze. "Senior Feng Yao, this brat is Tang Ao." Qin Wudao was a bit frightened by Tang Ao's gaze. He knew very well what Qin Wudao had done to the Tang family these past few years. Tang Ao had even killed Tang Zhan's adopted son, Tang Chu. Now that Tang Ao had come, he definitely wouldn't let Qin Wudao go. Since this was the case, he could only make the first move and let Feng Yao kill Tang Ao. "You're Tang Ao." Feng Yao's spirit power surged and his aura was incomparably terrifying. He extended his hand and a black spirit energy claw flew towards Tang Ao. This black spirit energy claw had waves of ghostly wails and wolf howls. At the same time, a dark underworld aura seeped out. Although the Tang family people were behind Tang Ao, they were still intimidated by this dark underworld aura and didn't dare to move. Seeing Feng Yao's nether-een claw, Tang Ao snorted coldly. Immediately after, traces of nether-een aura converged behind Tang Ao. In the end, the nether-een aura converged into a gate. Then, Tang Ao's thoughts moved and this void gate slowly opened a crack. The moment the void door opened, the entire Bluestone City darkened. Everyone looked up in shock, only to see dark clouds rolling in the sky and gusts of cold wind blowing around. Meanwhile, in the Qin mansion, all the warriors of the Qin mansion were dumbfounded. Not only did Feng Yao's nether-een claw not injure Tang Ao in the slightest, it was directly devoured by the netherworld gate. Then, under Tang Ao's summon, one by one, the dark underworld soldiers walked out of the underworld gate. These netherworld soldiers were clad in full armor. Only their eyes had two strands of dark blue netherworld flames, making them look extremely terrifying. Netherworld soldiers. Seeing this scene, Feng Yao's heart instantly set off a storm. Netherworld soldiers were martial artists of the netherworld. It was rumored that when a martial artist died, their soul would be sucked into the netherworld. However, under normal circumstances, the netherworld was not connected to other worlds. But now, this young man named Tang Ao had actually summoned the netherworld soldiers of the netherworld. "Kill them for me." After summoning the netherworld soldiers, Tang Ao's expression didn't change. These people dared to do such a thing to the Tang family and Bluestone City. Then they should be prepared to die. Facing the netherworld soldiers, these Qin family martial artists were already scared out of their wit. How could they still have the courage to fight? Chapter 1979. However, before Feng Yao could get far, he felt an aura lock onto him. Suddenly, the threat of death rose up in his heart. Feng Yao had rarely had this kind of feeling since he started cultivating. However, every time he had this feeling, it was definitely a life and death crisis. Feng Yao didn't dare to hesitate and instantly took out a pitch-black skull. There was a long awl at the bottom of this skull, which was emitting an evil aura. What shocked Tang Ao was that Feng Yao didn't use this bone awl to deal with him. Instead, he directly and decisively slapped it down from the top of his head. Even though Tang Ao had cultivated to the 7th level of life and death realm, Tang Ao still couldn't escape the restraints of his body. Therefore, if Tang Ao was in a fight with other martial artists and was struck by such a bone awl from the top of his head, Even if Tang Ao did not die, he would still be severely injured. However, contrary to Tang Ao's expectations, after Feng Yao slapped this bone all into his head, the aura on his body suddenly skyrocketed. Previously, Tang Ao saw that Feng Yao's cultivation base was only at the 5th level of life and death realm. However, in an instant, the evil aura on Feng Yao's body spread everywhere, and his cultivation base skyrocketed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, Feng Yao's aura reached the peak of the 9th level of life and death realm, infinitely close to the astral reaching realm. However, seeing Feng Yao like this, Tang Ao immediately knew that this Feng Yao would be an extremely troublesome opponent. Normally, when two unfamiliar martial artists battled, they would start by probing each other. However, this Feng Yao was extremely decisive, going all out like a lion hunting a rabbit. Relying on the 9 Dragons' Emperor Jade body and his own abundant spirit power, Tang Ao had 70% chance of winning against an ordinary 9th level life and death realm martial artist. However, facing this Feng Yao at this moment, Tang Ao actually felt a trace of threat. Ever since he started cultivating, it had always been Tang Ao fighting above his level, bringing a sense of oppression to his opponents. Feng Yao was originally only a 5th level life and death realm martial artist, while Tang Ao was at the 7th level. Although he didn't know what Feng Yao had used to raise his cultivation base to such a frightening level, Tang Ao truly felt threatened by him. Therefore, Tang Ao didn't dare to be careless. His body flashed with a golden light, and the 21st level battle Saint Bone Life Spirit instantly protected his body. Then, Tang Ao opened his hand, and the 7 green lotus sword souls behind Tang Ao turned into 7 beams of green light and flew out. They combined in the air and appeared in Tang Ao's hand. After holding the green lotus sword, Tang Ao's aura suddenly changed. An incomparably powerful sword chi revolved around Tang Ao, and the ground around him was also scratched by the powerful sword chi. At this moment, the Qin family's martial artists, including Qin Wudao, had all been dragged into the netherworld by the netherworld armored warriors. As for the Tang family's martial artists, after rescuing the Tang family's disciples in the dungeon, they also left one after another. At this moment, not to mention the ordinary Tang family martial artists, even Tang Yun couldn't stand still in the surroundings. Tang Yun had cultivated for so long, but this was the first time she had seen such a frightening spirit power pressure. Chapter 1980. However, Tang Yun didn't dare transmit a message to Tang Ao. She could clearly sense that Feng Yao's cultivation was higher than Tang Ao's. She was worried that transmitting a message to Tang Ao would affect Tang Ao's fight. This is the last level of the heaven-gorging demon art. I've used it 3 times since I started cultivating it. The first time was against Xiahou Linyuan, the top genius of House Xiahou in 1,000 years. The second time was against venerated Elder Feng Ye of the 7 Kills sect. This is the 3rd time. You should be proud to die to the heaven-gorging demon art. If he hadn't felt the threat of death from Tang Ao, Feng Yao wouldn't have used the 7th level of the heaven-gorging demon art. The 7th level of the heaven-gorging demon art was powerful, but Feng Yao would be weakened for a year after using it once. Therefore, Feng Yao would never use the heaven-devouring demonic art unless it was absolutely necessary. However, Feng Yao was sure that if he did not display the 7th level of the heaven-devouring devil technique in time, he would not be able to display the heaven-devouring devil technique when facing Tang Ao. It's the heaven-gorging demon art. Tang Ao was surprised to hear that Feng Yao had used the heaven-gorging demon art, one of the 10 great demonic arts. The heaven-gorging demon art was an extremely powerful cultivation method. Tang Ao had obtained the half-step heaven-gorging demon art in his past life, so he understood it better than most. However, due to the extreme nature of the cultivation technique and the fact that Tang Ao possessed the mysterious heaven method, The cultivation technique that Tang Ao cultivated in his previous life was the mysterious heaven method. As for the heaven-gorging demonic art, Tang Ao had only cultivated some of the secret technique. Even so, these secret arts were of great help to Tang Ao. Tang Ao had been searching for the second half of the heaven-gorging demon art in his past life, but even after Tang Ao's death, Tang Ao hadn't been able to find it. Tang Ao hadn't expected Feng Yao to be so fortunate. Not only did he obtain the complete heaven-devouring demonic art, he even managed to cultivate the heaven-devouring demonic art. After learning that Feng Yao was cultivating the heaven-devouring demonic art, Tang Ao suddenly recalled an ancient demonic weapon he had seen in the heaven-devouring demonic art in his past life, the devil devouring all. When he saw the magic devouring all in Feng Yao's hand, Tang Ao didn't react. However, when combined with the heaven-devouring demonic art, Tang Ao immediately understood that Feng Yao had actually obtained such an ancient demonic artifact. Thinking of this, Tang Ao became even more vigilant. The spiritual energy around Feng Yao trembled, and immediately, black fog filled the air around Feng Yao. Feng Yao's figure was immediately submerged in the darkness. The black fog spread in all directions, and before long, Tang Ao was surrounded by darkness. In this pitch-black space, Tang Ao suddenly took a step back. The moment Tang Ao took a step back, a white bone claw suddenly emerged from the black fog. If Tang Ao hadn't dodged in time, this bone claw would have dug out Tang Ao's heart. Tang Ao frowned. Fighting in this black fog was extremely disadvantageous for Tang Ao. Although Feng Yao's cultivation was stronger than Tang Ao after using the heaven-devouring demonic art, Tang Ao wasn't afraid of facing Feng Yao head-on. On the contrary, Feng Yao's strange method made Tang Ao feel somewhat restrained, making it difficult for him to use it. At this moment, the surrounding black fog suddenly changed. What appeared in front of Tang Ao was a mountain of corpses and a sea of bones. The pungent smell of blood made Tang Ao think that this wasn't an illusion, but a real mountain of corpses and a sea of bones. At this moment, Tang Ao was standing on a huge skeleton. This skeleton was very large, and he didn't know what kind of demonic beast it belonged to. If it was any other martial artist, they would definitely be in a passive position in this kind of barrier. However, this was not the case for Tang Ao, who had the sky polar eyes. The sky polar eyes could see through all falsehoods, so it was absolutely impossible for this scene to confuse Tang Ao. With a thought, the sky polar eyes instantly opened. However, after using the sky polar eyes, Tang Ao's expression immediately changed. This was because under the sky polar eyes, nothing around him had changed. Instead, at this moment, the chaotic hexagram mirror on Tang Ao's neck sent a very dangerous warning to Tang Ao. It was as if he was in a relatively safe area, but he was facing some kind of fatal danger. Chapter 1981. Although Tang Ao didn't like the overly sinister magic devourer all, Tang Ao didn't dare to underestimate its power. After Tang Ao took a step back, Tang Ao's face immediately turned pale. He felt a sharp pain in his left shoulder and spat out a mouthful of blood. Tang Ao felt something prick him in that instant. Under the stimulation of the sharp pain, the sky polar eyes emitted an even more dazzling azure light. Then, Tang Ao was shocked to see that the magic devourer all had appeared in front of him without him knowing. The pair of demonic eyes of the skull on the magic devourer all was staring at him. This skull was only the size of a fist. Within the skull were two wisps of purple flames. It looked very frightening. Just now, under the gaze of this skull, even though Tang Ao had the sky polar eyes, he still fell into that strange illusion. Fortunately, in the face of the threat of death, Tang Ao's sky polar eyes burst forth with potential. But soon, the skull disappeared again. Following that, Tang Ao appeared in that illusionary space filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Tang Ao had a bad feeling in his heart. Under such circumstances, his attacks wouldn't be able to cause any damage to Feng Yao. Feng Yao could easily sneak up on him. Fighting in this illusion was extremely disadvantageous to Tang Ao. However, at this moment, 2 lines of blood had already appeared in Tang Ao's eyes. Although he had temporarily broken through the illusion, it was clear that Tang Ao's sky polar eyes was still a level lower than the magic devourer all. Hence, he had fallen into the illusion of the magic devourer all. Just as Tang Ao was thinking about how to break through the illusion, Tang Ao suddenly narrowed his eyes and immediately took a step back. At the same time, 3 bone awls appeared out of nowhere and brushed past Tang Ao's cheeks as they flew past him. There was a nauseating smell coming from these 3 bone awls, as if they were rotting corpses. However, Tang Ao knew that the aura of the bone awls was not as simple as it seemed. The decaying aura made Tang Ao realize that if he were to accidentally touch these 3 bone awls, even he would not be able to bear the consequences. Gu Zhui's sneak attack did not succeed. Very quickly, the sea of blood in front of Tang Ao began to boil. Immediately, a skeleton warrior bathed in blood crawled out of the sea of blood. This skeleton warrior wore a tattered armor and held a spear in his hand. Although his appearance was very similar to that of a human race expert, the single horn on his forehead told Tang Ao that this fellow was not a human race expert, but a devil race undead. Tang Ao did not know how this monster was formed or why it appeared in this place. However, Tang Ao knew that this monster would not be easy to deal with. Moreover, while he was dealing with this monster, it was very likely that Feng Yao would launch a sneak attack. Feng Yao cultivated the Heaven Devourer demonic technique, one of the 10 great demonic techniques. At this moment, the skeleton warrior that Feng Yao had summoned was also filled with demonic energy. After leaping out of the pool of blood, the skeleton warrior put away the spear in his hand and took out 2 long blades, one red and one purple. Seeing this, Tang Ao immediately knew that this skeleton warrior was not an ordinary warrior. It should be an expert from a foreign race. After taking out the 2 blades, the skeleton warrior did not give Tang Ao any chance to react and pressed towards Tang Ao. Chapter 1982. Whoosh, whoosh. However, what shocked Tang Ao was that the Azure Lotus Sword's incomparably sharp sword net was quickly shattered under the impact of the skeleton warrior's icy flames. Then, the skeleton warrior's 2 blade lights continued to charge toward Tang Ao, as if it wanted to crush Tang Ao into pieces. The green lotus sword in Tang Ao's hand emitted a terrifying cyan sword chi. As the spiritual power gushed out, a desolate aura emanated from Tang Ao's body. Suddenly, the entire space filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood became even more desolate and solemn. In this desolate and solemn atmosphere, Tang Ao's unstoppable sword stabbed out. This was the 7 Slaughter Divine Way's first sword move, Wind and Cloud Slaughter. In the past, Tang Ao's 7 Slaughter Divine Way was a sure kill move. Once it was used, it would definitely end the battle. However, this time, Tang Ao used the Wind and Cloud Slaughter just to block the skeleton warrior's martial skill. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the skeleton warrior's strength was. In terms of cultivation, Tang Ao could sense that the skeleton warrior was only at the 9th level of life and death realm. However, Tang Ao felt that this guy could still display the peak of the 9th level of life and death realm after an unknown amount of time had passed. Therefore, when it was alive, it must have been more than this. Moreover, it was different from ordinary undead creatures. After this skeleton warrior died, not only did it retain its battle consciousness, but it could also use its martial skills. At this moment, the skeleton warrior was holding 2 long blades, one red and one purple. They looked like spiritual weapons, but Tang Ao knew that these 2 long blades were actually powerful life souls that had reached the 29th level. If it wasn't for Tang Ao's Green Lotus Sword soul reaching the 29th level, it wouldn't have been easy for Tang Ao to deal with the skeleton warrior. After Tang Ao used Wind Cloud Bleak Kill to neutralize the skeleton warrior's attack, Feng Yao immediately launched a sneak attack on Tang Ao. Almost at the same time that Tang Ao brandished his sword, dozens of bone spears immediately shot out from the sea of blood around Tang Ao towards Tang Ao from various angles. Tang Ao had long since seen this attack with his sky limit eyes. The reason why Tang Ao didn't dodge the skeleton warrior's attack and used Wind Cloud Rustling Kill to break it was to lure Feng Yao out. Be it the illusion of a mountain of corpses or a sea of blood, or the skeletal warriors before him, they were all summoned by Feng Yao's heaven-devouring demonic art. If Tang Ao didn't finish off Feng Yao, then even if Tang Ao could neutralize the sneak attack of the Sea of Blood Bone Spears, or even kill the skeleton warrior, Tang Ao wouldn't be able to deal much damage to Feng Yao. On the other hand, if Tang Ao expended too much energy to deal with the skeleton warrior, it would be very dangerous for him in Feng Yao's Sea of Blood illusion. However, even under such an advantageous situation, Feng Yao was still so cautious. Therefore, it wasn't without reason that Feng Yao was able to obtain the heaven-devouring demonic art. A warrior who possessed a top-notch demonic art like the heaven-devouring demonic art was still so cautious. Such an opponent was definitely not easy to deal with. Chapter 1983. After training the sky-devouring demon art, Feng Yao's senses had become extremely sharp. If the vertical eye in between his eyebrows sensed danger, then there was definitely danger. Feng Yao could not understand it at all. After performing the sky-devouring demon art, he could even fight against Feng Ya, who was at the first level of astral reaching realm. How could he feel the threat of death when facing Tang Ao now? Right then, the Qin family had already turned into ruins. The Qin family, who had been working for the enemy for more than 10 years, had been destroyed in one night. While the citizens were cheering, they could not help but sigh inwardly. Even a powerful existence like the Qin family had been destroyed in one night in front of a real powerful warrior. Normal people like them were way too small in front of a powerful warrior. Some of the older people knew that ordinary people like them were just like ants in front of a true powerhouse. Their lives could be trampled at will. Therefore, these people did not think too much about this scene. They had been living under the law of the jungle for a long time, and they had already become numb. However, those young men and women, and even some teenagers, were all extremely excited. In the past, the Qin family was like the sky, the law of the Blue Stone City. Whatever the Qin family said, they would do. But now they knew that in front of a powerful warrior like Tang Ao, the Qin family was just a slightly bigger ant. Right then, these teenagers were all looking forward to the martial arts sections. A lot of them were already secretly planning when they would leave the Blue Stone City and find a martial arts sect to train in. Once they were done with their training, they would be able to return to the Blue Stone City like Tang Ao did. It would be a very happy thing. Compared to these people, the Tang family people looked very serious at the moment. In front of them was a spirit formation with black fog lingering around it. Through their observation during this period of time, everyone discovered that Tang Ao, who was inside the spirit formation, seemed to be unable to see the outside of the spirit formation. Although they were able to see Tang Ao from outside the spirit formation, they were unable to provide any assistance to him. Even Tang Yun, who was at the first level of the spiritual ocean realm, was unable to use soul remembrance sound transmission or other methods to contact Tang Ao, who was inside the barrier. Tang Ao was very worried for Tang Ao. Although Tang Ao's cultivation seemed to be good, she could still feel that Tang Ao's cultivation was a bit lower than Feng Yao's. And this time, Feng Yao was clearly preemptive. Without giving Tang Ao any chance to resist, he directly dragged Tang Ao into the Blood Sea fantasy. Tang Yun really wanted to tell Tang Ao to destroy the surrounding walls. However, Tang Yun helplessly discovered that Feng Yao's blood sea barrier had completely isolated the outside world's soul remembrance. Tang Yun felt that if her soul remembrance was a bit stronger, perhaps she could try. But now Tang Yun really had no other choice. She could only pray that Tang Ao could survive in the blood sea fantasy. At the same time, Tang Yun was also evacuating the Tang family members, because if something happened to Tang Ao, Feng Yao would definitely not let the rest of the Tang family go. Although everyone hoped that nothing would happen to Tang Ao, it was better to be safe than sorry. Therefore, Tang Yun had to be prepared in advance at this time. In the blood sea fantasy, Tang Ao was also very helpless. At this moment, he was in a very passive situation. He could only be beaten passively without any room to fight back. Chapter 1984. On the surface, it looked like Tang Ao had the upper hand. But in reality, that was not the case. Because the foreign race's swordsman was already dead, this fellow actually used this method of exchanging injuries for death. He was a dead spirit, so he naturally did not fear getting injured. Hence, this method of attack was very disadvantageous to Tang Ao. Not to mention exchanging injuries for death, even exchanging injuries for injuries was not something that Tang Ao could withstand. Within the blood sea fantasy, sword and saber lights crisscrossed. Tang Ao did not give this skeleton warrior any chance to get close to him. He kept using Feng Yun demise to maintain a distance from this skeleton warrior. There was already a bloody hole on Tang Ao's left shoulder. This was caused by this fellow's saber aura. Of course, Tang Ao also seized the opportunity and pierced the skeleton warrior's heart with his sword. However, Tang Ao discovered that it was exactly as he thought. This skeleton warrior did not have any fatal injuries. Hence, Tang Ao felt that there were only two ways to deal with this skeleton warrior. Either he completely destroyed this skeleton warrior, or he found Feng Yao, who was hiding in the dark. After killing Feng Yao, this skeleton warrior would naturally cease to exist. In his previous life, when Tang Ao obtained the half-step heaven-devouring demonic technique, Tang Ao was certain that this technique did not belong to the human race. Now that he saw Feng Yao, who cultivated the entire heaven-devouring demonic technique, execute it, this feeling became even more intense. Tang Ao always felt that although this cultivation technique was powerful, it was not a good thing. This feeling was very abrupt, and Tang Ao could not explain why. At this moment, the two long sabers in the skeleton warrior's hands exploded with a resplendent light. Immediately, Tang Ao saw the demonic aura around this sinister skeleton warrior as it suddenly brandished its sabers. Following that, two saber storms came crashing towards Tang Ao. Tang Ao instantly brandished his sword, and the killing aura of Feng Yun demise immediately took shape. However, what surprised Tang Ao was that the sword intent of the vanishing winds and clouds' sword intent was instantly defeated after encountering these two powerful blade storms. The two saber storms of the skeleton warrior easily crushed it into pieces. Fortunately, Tang Ao was also an expert who had experienced countless life and death battles. In this situation, Tang Ao did not panic. With a stretch of his body, Tang Ao took a few steps back. Then, Tang Ao lowered his body slightly. At the same time, a terrifying lightning dragon condensed on the green lotus sword in his hand. If the azure lotus sword in Tang Ao's hand was like a lightning snake when Tang Ao used the thunderclap chop, then the azure lotus sword in Tang Ao's hand was like an overbearing lightning dragon. Roar! With a thunderous roar, a huge lightning sword that was hundreds of feet in length was slashed out by Tang Ao. This lightning sword chi had an indomitable power, as if everything in front of this lightning sword chi would be slashed into nothingness. Because it was too powerful, when this lightning sword chi slashed across the space of the blood sea illusion, it left ripples in the blood sea illusion. Boom! Soon, Tang Ao's lightning sword chi and the two saber storms of the skeleton warrior collided. Suddenly, the entire space trembled, the blood sea churned, and thunder roared. In the terrifying thunderous explosion, Tang Ao's figure was also drowned by the sword chi that filled the sky. Even though Tang Ao was still in the blood sea illusion, Feng Yao did not know where Tang Ao was. Chapter 1985. At this moment, Tang Ao's mountain-splitting attack seemed like it was going to shatter this space. Under Tang Ao's axe, of course, it wasn't able to shatter the space. However, this skeleton warrior was directly split in half by Tang Ao's sneak attack. At the same time that Tang Ao heavily injured this skeleton warrior, Tang Ao heard a muffled groan come from behind him. Tang Ao didn't need to think to know that this skeleton warrior was closely connected to Feng Yao. After Tang Ao heavily injured the skeleton warrior, Feng Yao was also injured. Promptly, Tang Ao didn't hesitate and chopped at the empty space. This skeleton warrior's strength was similar to his. If he didn't take this opportunity to end this fight, then this fight would be dragged on endlessly. This was extremely disadvantageous to Tang Ao. Now that Tang Ao's sneak attack succeeded, he naturally had to follow up with another attack. After Tang Ao chopped with his axe, he heard a series of kacha-kacha sounds. Sweeping out with his sole remembrance, Tang Ao saw Feng Yao's figure. However, at this moment, an enormous skeleton warrior had appeared in front of Feng Yao. This skeleton warrior was holding a shield. Although Tang Ao's demon beheading axe had smashed this skeleton warrior into pieces, the shield-wielding skeleton warrior had also blocked Tang Ao's attack. However, after continuously losing two skeleton warriors, Feng Yao also spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately, the blood sea illusion could no longer be maintained. Without any hesitation, after spitting out a mouthful of blood, Feng Yao waved his hand and the surrounding scene changed back to the Qin family ruins. At this moment, Feng Yao transformed into a wisp of black smoke and fled into the distance. Where do you think you're going? This Feng Yao's cultivation was too strong, and he was a huge threat to the Tang family. He simply couldn't stay in the Tang family forever. Moreover, the moment he left, Tang Ao didn't have any martial artists that could stop this Feng Yao. If Feng Yao harbored hatred in his heart and came back to take revenge on the Tang family's martial artists, then everyone in the Tang family would die without a doubt. After casually taking out a storage ring and tossing it to Tang Yun, lightning bloomed beneath Tang Ao's feet, and the dark cloud of wind and lightning instantly appeared. Then, everyone saw a black smoky figure fleeing rapidly in the air. Behind it, a bolt of lightning chased after it at an even faster speed. After seeing Tang Ao's terrifying speed, Feng Yao even had the thought of dying. He had already obtained the heaven-devouring demonic art, a top-notch cultivation technique, as well as the accompanying treasure, the devil devouring all. As long as he cultivated honestly in the cave, once he reached the astral-reaching realm, he would be an invincible existence in the whole black-yellow continent. However, he just had to want to die. After reaching the 5th level of life and death realm, he could not sit still anymore, and wanted to use some evil methods to reach the astral-reaching realm. This was especially so after he had encountered Feng Ye and Xiahou Linyuan from the 7 Kills sect. Both of them were still alive. Thus, Feng Yao became even more arrogant. Not even in his wildest dreams could Feng Yao imagine that in this small bluestone city there would be a frightening existence like Tang Ao. At the same time, Feng Yao was also clear as to why Tang Ao was chasing after him. Obviously, Tang Ao was worried that he would take revenge on the Tang family. Therefore, he had to kill him today. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.